Aita for saying I would stay at my mom's if I had to share a room with babies. I'm 16F. My parents split up before I was born. Custody is I live with my dad most of the time, and my mom every other weekend, plus random staying with her if I want. Recently, my dad got engaged to Hannah, and she and her kids are moving in. Hannah's kids' ages are 9, 7, 2, 2, 2. She is widowed, so they live with her full time. This made room arrangements a bit awkward, since there's only 3 kids' bedrooms to go around. Dad and Hannah talked it over last night without consulting anybody, and Hannah came over this morning to announce with my dad what they decided. Apparently they want 9 and 7 to each have their own rooms, and me to share with the triplets, because my room is significantly bigger than the others, and I don't stay there full time. I said their plan was stupid. They wanted me to share with 3 toddlers. They said they didn't want me to move, but it was the biggest room so other people should share. I said I didn't care if I switched rooms, because the more logical move would have been the triplets in the big room. 7 and 9 share, and I get my own. I said I'd take the smallest one until I move out. They said it would be more work to move my things to another room, and their idea was more practical. Then asked why I was so pressed since I don't even live here full time. I said not staying in the room 4 days a month was a sorry excuse to land me with a bunch of toddlers, and if they seriously planned on doing it to me, I'd make the custody arrangement change and I'd stay with Mom for the most part. I know she doesn't mind because both of them remind me I could stay with her whenever I wanted. This made Hannah cry because she just wants her family to blend together nicely, and apparently I was ruining her plans. This made Dad mad at me, and I'm not allowed to talk to Hannah until she forgives me. I didn't know this meant so much to them, but I'm still saying I'll stay with Mom longer if I have to share with toddlers. But my dad made me feel a bit guilty, so... Aita? Relevant comment. Commenter en entier. They know what they are doing to you. They only act like they don't. You sharing with the triplets makes you care for them at night, and as soon as their bedtime begins. It is not practical at all. Where should you hang out between there and your bedtime? Living room with them? I would assume Hannah wants you to leave, and your dad either wants you to babysit, or simply doesn't actually care if you are there, but they want you to the bad guy. Commenter 2, this is what I think too. Hannah wants OP to move out, so she insists that OP share her room with 3 toddlers. Her fake crying and hurt feelings are tactics to manipulate OP's father. Commenter 3, I don't think any adult man is naive enough to think a teen with 3 toddlers is practical for the teen at all. Kids in one room can only be cramped. OP would not be able to have friends over ever, etc., etc. It would be not much different as OP having no room and sleeping on the living room couch. Commenter 4, NTA, Hannah thinks the best way for her family to blend together nicely is to instantly make her stepdaughter the free babysitter for her 3 toddlers? Dang, like at least the evil stepmother waited till Cinderella's father died, not just made her a free maid instantly. Also, your dad kinda sucks. Who in their right mind would want to share a room with 3 toddlers, let alone someone that's almost an adult? He's favoring his stepkids over his bio daughter to keep Hannah happy, and he's willing to make you sacrifice things like your privacy. Commenter 5, IKR. They're her toddlers. Move them all into the master bedroom until Oop can move out then. I bet you anything the master bedroom is bigger than Oop's room and then Hannah can take care of her own kids. Commenter 6 NTA, this room arrangement is insane. How will you get any quiet and privacy for studying? What about privacy during your menses? The 2-year-olds will get into all your belongings and possibly damage them. Their diapers will smell. I think Hannah is being sneaky and manipulative. She intends to push you out of your home by making you share your room with 3 toddlers. Her crying and hurt feelings are more manipulative tactics to turn your father against you. And it looks like it's working. You don't owe Hannah or your father any apologies. Also, when your father wants you to babysit Hannah's kids, as I'm sure he will, you have the right to refuse. Talk with your mother about this and see if you can stay with her permanently. Commenter 7. There's a lot to unpack here. The knee-jerk reaction so far has been disappointing, but also not unexpected. Given the experience of the average Redditor, you're also 16, so I can almost guarantee there's a fair amount of burying the lead happening with this story, with some liberal usage of hyperbole. Regardless, I'll try to break this down as best I can. So we'll start with the facts. Your name isn't on the title, and you don't pay the note. You are free to communicate your concerns, instead of making demands and drawing lines in the sand. But at the end of the day, it's your dad's call. You don't get to arbitrarily change custody arrangements. That's not how it works. It's been you and your dad for so long. that the thought of you having to share him with someone else and their kids probably makes you mad. And I can guarantee there's probably a lot of pent-up resentment and anger that's been building up for a while. And it's now manifested itself in the form of this argument over living arrangements for all the kids. You're angry about this, but you're not angry about the living arrangements. Blending families is a huge change. It's hard, and it's not just hard for you. It's hard for everyone regarding living arrangements. If I look at it objectively, I think Hannah's idea is that she doesn't want to split up the triplets, which makes sense to me. I am a twin. There's 3 of them, so they're going to need more space. This is just common sense. Regarding a solution, I think since you're the oldest, and you're at a point in your life where privacy is really important to you, that the 7 and 9-year-old can share a room, and you should have your own room. While I don't think YTA is warranted, I do think that how you're handling this isn't really making the transition any easier. Anash commenter 8 NTA. They aren't wanting the family to blend. They want a free babysitter. Go to your mom's house. Update 1. I'm at my mom's house at least for the weekend while the adults try to work things out. But my mom said I was welcome to live with her full time, and if I really wanted, we could change the custody agreement. Also, thank you for all the replies. I really wasn't expecting this to blow up as much as it did. Update 2. Everyone talked, but Dad and Hannah are staying with their decision, and I've decided to move to my mom's long term. And we're gonna switch the custody around, so I'll only see my dad every other weekend, and I'm just gonna sleep on the couch when I'm there. Obviously, nothing is set yet, but that's what we're gonna do. And thanks everyone for being so nice, haha. Final update. I still get messages here. I just found this account again, haha, so I thought I'd update whoever sees this. I still live with my mom, and I love it here. Hannah openly dislikes me, so I don't even stay for weekends anymore at my dad's house. We call sometimes, but it's what it is, I guess. Hannah's kids are fine, but I only see them on holidays, also. Hannah's pregnant again, and 7 and 9, now 8 and 10 are going to share a room. So I guess it wasn't too much work in the first place, she just hated me. Stories number 2. Entitled Brother Refuses to Leave My House. So I got rid of the house. This is my dad's story, not mine, but I thought I would still post. English isn't my first language, and I'm on mobile, so sorry advance for all the mistakes. I'll be keeping things vague to keep my anonymity. So my dad was born in country A but moved to country B in his late 20s. The family home was always willed to my dad by my granddad. However, during the last few years of his life, he was very ill, so my uncle and his mistress moved into the family home to take care of my grandpa, also caused my uncles. Then wife threw him out their house for cheating. My dad wasn't happy about the mistress staying over, however would rather have my uncle take care of my granddad than put him in a home or have in-house care with people we didn't know too well. My grandpa sadly passed seat a few years back and my uncle was still staying at the house. 1 year after his passing, my dad finally asked him to leave the house or to buy the house off him, and while my uncle agreed to begin with, he went back on his word a few months later. Another couple of months passed and my dad decided to move legally, but the legal route takes forever. My dad cut the electricity and water to the house, as he was the one who was always paying for it. Yet they still refused to leave. This year, he finally had enough of my uncle's BS, and had people scout the area for when no one was in the house, and had the house demolished, so there's no house for them to go back to now. Edit, info about my uncle. Here is the older son and the golden boy. Out of the sibling, this man was also willed a house of his own plus other stuff, formed the inheritance. But he lost that hose in the divorce and made some stupid decisions with the other half. My dad actually got the least amount of inheritance, as he was deemed well off, and my uncle was deemed needing more support. BTW, my uncle also owns a business. He has enough money to get a place of his own, but he won't choose. Why would he when he can stay in the big family house for free? Comments, commenter 1 LL Mao, that's some next level petty revenge. Dad said, fine, no house for anyone then. Commenter 2, my ex-wife's previous husband hadn't moved out because he was incapable of holding down a job. The house had been a gift from her mother, and the deed had never been transferred to my ex. So to his surprise and dismay, it wasn't a factor in their settlement. The real issue was that their daughter was 8yo, and she thought the sun shone out of his ass. He had never said no to her. Evicting him when he had nowhere to go would have devastated her relationship with their daughter. He clearly knew he had my ex over a barrel. My ex's mom signed over the house so she could sell it, and she worked out an arrangement with her ex. She agreed to give him 25K from the sale of the house to also relocate and get himself set up. He agreed. He only started looking for a job when he ran out of money and realized he really wasn't getting another dime. Commenter 3 impressive. My mill is planning to leave her house to 3 of her 4 kids, my husband among them, but not to my unemployed BL because he's been living there rent-free for 30 years and won't leave. Emil says she knows the other 3 siblings won't actually live in the house and they'll sell it, which will make my bill move. Commenter 4. Squatters can be true scum. At least he owned the land, which might have been worth more than the house, especially if it became a literal teardown. Stories number 3. Aita, because my GF wants to take her ex-husband to her work Christmas party. I've 35M been with my girlfriend 44F for 9 months. When we met, she was open about the fact that she had fully separated from her ex, and that they would be starting official divorce proceedings. Those started around 1 month ago, and it's basically in the early stages. Yesterday we were talking about work Christmas parties, and she told me her workplace are currently running a poll where the options were: go alone, go with your partner, or say you're not going. When I asked what she was thinking of doing, she said she needed to talk to her ex-husband about it because she was going to take him if that option won, because she didn't want to go and sit alone while everyone else was there with their spouses. Obviously, I reacted pretty badly to this. She said she couldn't bring me because nobody there knew about me, us. She had started her job about 3 months before we met, and everyone there was basically under the impression that she was still married, as that's how things had been when she joined. And she didn't like lots of people knowing her business, separating, divorce, etc., so she just went along with it. She said that bringing me would therefore be weird, and she temporarily wanted everything to still look normal by bringing him. I questioned why she would need to go and pretend to essentially strangers. She could easily just go on her own instead. And she told me I didn't understand how difficult it was for her. She told me I was making it all about me by asking to be prioritized in my eyes. It was just consideration. That I was acting irrational and being jealous, and that she didn't have to run any of her decisions by me. She then started crying, hung up on me, and texted me to say she wanted space for a few hours. But she hasn't been in touch since, and that was 24 hours ago. I haven't reached out because I feel I haven't done anything wrong. I feel really horrible about her wanting to take him along so easily, because it feels like she has not considered my feelings about it. We didn't have a conversation about it, she just told me, and so to me it feels a little disrespectful to me in our relationship. I know we've not been together long either, so maybe I have no right to be involved in her decisions. But I would expect to at least have a convo about that, because that decision does directly affect us. I also don't understand why she needs to go and pretend to people she doesn't really know, and why she wouldn't have just been able to take that opportunity to explain. But I don't know if I am just being selfish, like she said, Aita. I've never been married, so I don't know if I have just majorly downplayed everything and been inconsiderate. Honestly appreciate everyone's advice and opinions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. This is a massive red flag. You're worried about reacting badly, but the real problem is that 9 months into a relationship, she is actively choosing to prioritize the appearance of an intact marriage over publicly acknowledging her actual relationship with you. She isn't worried about people knowing her business. She's worried about admitting she has moved on before the divorce is final, which suggests she is keeping open the option of reconciliation. The excuse that it would be weird to bring you but normal to bring the man she is divorcing is absurd and deeply disrespectful to you. Demand honesty and transparency, or walk away, because right now you are her secret, and the ex is her preferred public face. Reply. I've read this over and over again because it articulates and validates so much of my thinking. That whole thing about actively prioritizing an appearance of an intact marriage is what felt so ironic and also uncomfortable when she told me I was being selfish for demanding, which I wasn't to be prioritized. Thank you for this comment. UP responds and clarifies the timeline of his relationship and how long the GF had the job before meeting up. Reply. Glad you've brought this up because, to be honest, I can't answer this either now. I think about it. From what she told me, the relationship had been dead a good year before they separated. She started the job in October and they had separated before we began in Jan. So I guess maybe she talked about him in the crossover? Edited for clarity as I got confused with when she moved into her own place, which was March. Commenter 2. Similar situation for me. However, I'm the one that has to attend the Christmas party. My ex and I are close to finalizing the divorce, and I have found a new lady in my life. I am higher up at work, and it's important I attend these events, but no one knows my personal life. That being said, taking my ex has never crossed my mind. I'm either going alone or I'm not going. This is all new, and I will definitely take my girlfriend next year, but not now. Too soon. If the thought of taking my ex crossed my mind for image reasons, I would 100% talk to my new partner before making a decision. But honestly, that's just not an option or consideration. Good luck, sorry mate. Reply, man, thank you for this. I was hoping someone would drop in who had lived it, or from the other side. You don't know how much this helps, because I put myself in her shoes, and like you did, I would have either gone alone and made an excuse if people asked where my OH was, or I'd have just not gone. Nobody is forcing you into taking them. And yeah, like you, if I had to, I would have asked my partner first and made sure they were comfortable or okay with it. She did zero of this. This has made my mind up. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you and your new lady. OP responds to multiple long comments regarding his girlfriend's motives to hold on to him and still not being over her ex-husband. Reply, just wanted to say thank you for this and for sharing your experience. Finally, this helps me understand what her motives, intentions might have been. She had a bad experience with a previous workplace and was out of work for quite some time, which left her scarred. She was constantly worrying the same thing would happen at this job. And it's a high-power role, so I can totally understand why she may have made out everything was okay like you did so that personal issues couldn't be used against her. And I guess if you're that scared, you would to some extent try to keep up the charade. Especially because she'd only been in the job a year, which isn't solid ground in our country. You need two to be safe from sudden sackings. I just wish she'd explained that. If she had said, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing because ATM it feels safer for me to make out everything's okay so they don't think I might be distracted from doing this job because it's getting a bit meaty now. I would have understood. I don't know if I'd have been super comfy with it. I still think she could have gone alone and made an excuse. But I get why maybe that would have looked weird too. But if we'd worked out boundaries together, then it would have been okay as it could be. And like you say, if only the not running decisions by me, silent treatment and making me feel bad for having what turned out to be legit concerns hadn't happened either. All of this could have been resolved, however. It's now that behavior that's not okay, as everyone here has helped me see. So it's that behavior which concludes my decision. Thank you so much for giving me this perspective and for future understanding. I hope you and your kiddo are doing well now. Update. Aita, because my GF wants to take her ex-husband to her work Christmas party. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their responses. I never expected to get so many, and I read all of them, yeah. Even the painful ones. There were some great pieces of advice, perspective and wisdom, so I really appreciate everyone's comments. Second, there were a lot of repeating questions that I didn't answer in the post, because it all moved way too quick. So I wanted to answer those now in case those commenters were still wondering. Who filed and did I definitely know they were divorcing? My ex-GF had always made out that she had begun proceedings. Honestly, I don't know for definite that they are, but she did have a few meetings with a lawyer when I was with her, and she'd moved into her own place in March. So to me all the signs pointed that way, but of course it may not have been the truth. Why would her ex-not-ex-husband agree to go? This is a solid question, and if I'm honest from what she told me about him, I genuinely don't think he would have. One of the reasons she gave for their marriage collapsing was that he became more antisocial and introverted and stopped wanting to go anywhere and do anything with her. I think that's why it felt worse, because if she was telling the truth about him, she was willing to take someone who had previously on multiple occasions said he didn't want go and do things. If I'm honest on reflection, I think that this is an example of her refusing to face reality and clinging on to her old identity. Thank you. So much to the commenters who gave me this insight, she just thought he'd agree, because previously he probably always begrudgingly has, and she hadn't appreciated or logically thought about the weight of what she would be asking. If it was me, I certainly would have said no like everyone else said they would too. So on to the update. We split up. Thanks to all the perspectives here, I text her to say that I hoped she was okay, and that the space had given me time to reflect on the situation. I explained that I could see things from her perspective, and what her intentions might have been, but that I was hurt that she hadn't felt she could communicate that with me first, as if she had. The outcome might have been different, and we could have worked something out. However, I felt her behavior in calling me selfish and the not running decisions by me, etc., was disrespectful and inconsiderate, and that was now my major problem in moving forward with the relationship. She replied to say that if I was going to just bring another source of pain and stress to her life, then I may as well go, because I was still making the whole thing about me and my feelings and not appreciating her not breaking apart at the seams while her life did. So she'd be taking more space until I decided what I wanted. Thanks to all of you, I realized how invalidating and, again, Manipulative that was. So I told her we'd make the space permanent and wished her all the best. Her response was just okay, and asking if she could still use my Netflix password. So I changed it. Then she texted again a little while later asking why I'd changed it, and could I put it back because it had locked her out of a show she was watching. So I had a good laugh to myself about the irony of decision-making without running it by her. And didn't respond, on to better things, and a definite lesson learned for the future in seeing the red flags. I also just wanted to thank the commenters who have lived it and shared their experiences. It did make it easier to understand what her motivations, intentions might have been for carrying on as normal. As I said in a previous comment, she had had a bad experience with a previous job, and was out of work for some time in between. I also knew she was nervy about this one as it was beginning to ramp up. I can see why she may have obfuscated the truth, so that her employers didn't think she had any personal distractions which might have stopped her being at her sharpest. Where we live you need 2 years to be safe from being fired, and she was only a year in. I can totally get why someone suddenly on their own with individual finances, plus lawyer fees and divorce settlement if true fees, would not want to risk their income suddenly being shut off or being back out of work for a long period. Having said that, I also agree with everyone that there's a difference between obfuscating the truth and showing up with your ex and essentially playing pretend when there was the option of going alone and just making an excuse. For them though, I guess I can also see why maybe that would feel awkward or uncomfortable, being surrounded by others. End of the day, if she had come to me and explained, maybe we could have worked it out. However, she didn't, and everyone was right that her behavior and attitude towards me, the situation, was incredibly disrespectful and problematic in the end. Once again, a massive thanks to this community. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Yeah, I don't even know the endgame here. Say she takes him to this event and then show up with you to the next one. Isn't that still going to be an issue? Or does she then go to events alone for the foreseeable future until enough time has passed? Commenter 2. This was so dumb on her part. All she had to do was go to the party alone. Just tell people her husband had his own company Christmas party the same day. So we decided to divide and conquer. Or he was at the in-laws or on a work trip. Could have had a dozen excuses besides actually dragging him there or bringing OP. They could have then dealt with the changeover next year. Reply. Yep. This was something I really didn't get at the time. Having had the insight of some amazing commenters in this community now, I can see why maybe her thinking was the path of least resistance, especially if she had been perpetuating a completely false reality, so they were almost expecting to meet him, which feels a bit icky anyway now that I write it out. But just like you gave there, I also still believe there were a whole host of plausible excuses she could have given that nobody would have thought twice about. And if she didn't want to do that, then the other option was to not go entirely. The choice to go with him was the choice that should have been the most far-fetched and the last resort, not her first choice or preferred option. Commenter 3, honestly really glad to see you split. Like, there was just no good answer for what she was doing, and her reactions to you made it very clear that she had no business being in a relationship right now. She wants a roll of duct tape to hold her together, not a partner. Commenter 4, the audacity of her to ask for your Netflix password had me scoffing. You really dodged a bullet. She was still insisting that you were jealous, immature, and selfish. No wonder her marriage didn't last, and I bet everything that her ex was the one to ask for separation and later on divorce. Just from how she described him and the way he goes along with what she wants, leads me to believe that she pushed for him to do things he didn't want to do, just to keep up images. Stories number 4. Aita for telling my neighbor that the reason her son is in jail is solely his fault and not the victim's. So my neighbor's son was in the police academy, and I guess he had to do, I don't know what you call it, an internship at a juvenile facility. One of the inmates there was a 13-year-old girl. So apparently this girl stripped naked to entice him and they had sex. I don't know whether they got caught, or the girl told, but it was found out. And now he is in prison for unlawful sexual activity, and is doing 25 to life no chance of parole. My neighbor is saying it's the girl's fault because she enticed him and men can't control themselves. I told her that was bullshit. Men have control. He was the adult, and it was his responsibility to tell her to put her clothes on and walk away. She got mad saying men can't control that. I said, so you're saying so has no reasoning ability, and that he is no more than an animal, which is another reason he should not be around a vulnerable demographic. She called me an asshole and went back to her house in tears. I told her the only assholes in the scenario was her and her son. Her for trying to blame a child and him for falling for it and abusing a child. My husband says he knows I was right, but I should have said nothing. As a child who was abused and blamed for it by adults, I can't. I was raped when I was 7 by an uncle, and my mother told me it was my fault I enticed him by always being around. She literally brought me to his house, and she said I should have waited outside then and nothing would have happened. So when my neighbor said that it triggered me, my husband hugged me and said he gets it and then apologized. But part of me wonders if I am an asshole for telling my neighbor the truth. Commenter 1 NTA. The truth is no less true just because some people don't want to hear it. Commenter 2 NTA. Honestly, she probably needs people to say that to her. Sounds like she is in denial process of the acceptance curve. Commenter 3 People in hospitals, jails, detentions, and mental health facilities cannot consent legally to sexual encounters unless they are married, to begin with. Plus, the grown adult had intercourse with a 13-year-old little girl. She is a child. That's rape, no matter how you cut the cards. Edit to clarify, married persons can consent to their legal partner. Commenter 4. Felons almost always come up with some elaborate story excuse for what they did. Good on you for calling out this woman's BS. Her son is a child rapist. There is no excuse to justify his actions, and nobody has any blame except him. NTA, stories number 5, AITA, for refusing to cut my hair for my sister's engagement party. My sister 22F told me 18M over lunch that I would be uninvited to her engagement party if I didn't get a haircut. I have a complicated relationship with my hair. A few years ago, I was going through a very difficult time, and I would completely shave my head every other week or so. I won't get into the details of that, but to make a very long story short, things got better for me and I started to grow out my hair again. Ever since I did, I constantly get asked by my family when I would be getting a haircut, and I usually just shrug it off and tell them I don't want to. Questions slowly turned into rude remarks and insults. But I always tried to ignore them because I told myself they couldn't have known this was a difficult topic for me. My sister has been planning her engagement party for a few months now, and the demands to get a haircut have increased significantly. It's become the only thing we talk about. I started to get a little frustrated, and anytime someone asked me, I would give them very firm answers and ask them to stop. At one point, I had an argument with my mom about this, and I opened up to her and explained why I didn't want to cut my hair, and she stopped bothering me about it, and it made me so happy. Today I was talking to my sister at lunch when she brought it back up again. She said, "About your hair, are you going to come to my engagement party looking like that?" So I stared at her for a second in disbelief and asked, "Are you serious?" She then said, "You're not coming then." Obviously I was extremely hurt by this, but I didn't want things to escalate, so I simply told her, "Fine," and tried to keep eating my food without crying. She kept berating me for a good 10 minutes and telling my mom to say something, and I sat there in silence trying to ignore her. Her reasoning was that she didn't want me to embarrass her in front of her fiancé's family because I looked like a junkie, and she didn't want to be associated with me. I couldn't take her screaming at me anymore, so I went to my room. A few minutes pass, and I overhear my sister talking about me in the living room, telling my mom to stop feeding into his delusions. At this point, I fully lost my mind. I barged into the living room and told her that if she has an issue with me, she can say it to my face. It turned into an awful screaming match with her repeatedly saying that she doesn't care and that she can do whatever she wants. My mom gave me a look and said, "She's mad at you because she cares, wants you to come." And that's where things ended. At this point, I feel like I should just be the bigger person and cut my hair. But I know that it would make me extremely unhappy. It just feels like this has been blown so far out of proportion, and I don't know how to deal with it, Aita. Update. Thank you all for your responses. I wanted to clear up some of the confusion. My hair is clean, I shower regularly, and I take care of it. I use products such as oils to maintain my hair and to style it. I also regularly trim my ends and shave the short parts. I've gotten haircuts at the salon after starting to grow it. I have a mullet wolf cut with short bangs. I prefer not to go to the salon too often because it's a huge source of anxiety for me and, to be honest, I don't feel like paying lol. I didn't think this would be necessary to say, but I feel like it might be. I'm a closeted queer person, and my family is very religious. My hair is the only way I can somewhat express my queerness safely, but apparently not. My sister wants me to get that one haircut with the fades and short hair on top. It's not an issue of hygiene. She and most of my family just want me to conform. And just to be clear, I don't keep my hair like this out of spite or to rebel. I genuinely like the way I look this way. I got to talk to my mom earlier about what happened, and I told her that I respect my sister's choice and that I wouldn't be attending the party. She told me to stop talking about it and that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I guess we'll see what happens. Comments. Commenter 1. Edit judgment is NTA. Not only is your sister off her rocker, but your hair is just long, and that's the problem. That's not a real problem. I was already not a fan of her or your family, but dude, their attitudes are toxic AF. Don't change yourself to appease them. This is worth holding your ground over. I feel like I don't have enough info to make a judgment. I am absolutely on your side in that it's your hair and it can be long, short, or non-existent, and that's fine. However, if you aren't brushing it regularly, have matting, or it's a lot of diff lengths and doesn't look right, I don't think doing the bare minimum is asking a lot. I do not like your sister or family harassing you. I am not on her side. My point is this. Unless it's horrendous in some manner that we aren't aware of, you don't need to cut your hair, and that's a ridiculous ask. However, if you aren't taking care of it by brushing and washing it regularly, that's a different problem, and you should be doing at least the minimum of care in that way. I'm guessing this isn't the case, but it is something that would be helpful to know. If she's literally just mad that your hair is long, that's her problem, and a really weird one at that. Either way, your sister and anyone else pressuring you are AHs. Commenter 2. So first, it's your hair, and no one can tell you what to do with it. But realistically, what does it look like? I've seen guys grow out their hair without doing trims, and at some points it does look really weird. Like you would do a double take and think, why would anyone think that looks good? I wonder if everyone would be happy if you just had it trimmed and styled, without taking off much. Commenter 3. Without knowing you, I know two things to be true here. 1. Your hair is not the problem. And if it makes you happy, then it looks exactly as it should because it's your hair on your head. 2. Your sister needs a reality check about her wedding. Asking people to change themselves for it is unreasonable, and that behavior is not likely to simply change on its own. It should be challenged, as you are doing right now. You don't need to change yourself, period. NTA. Commenter 4. Well, if it's a length issue, then you're NTA, but if keep it messy, ungroomed, dirty, unkept, any of these, then YTA. I'm thinking at 18 you probably think you look cool or something, but most likely you do not. Commenter 5. Absolutely NTA. Your mom saying she's mad at you because she cares, wants you to come, is absolute bullshit. If she cared about you and genuinely wanted you to be there, she wouldn't care about something as trivial as your hair. It sounds to me like she only cares about keeping up some kind of appearances. My own son has long hair and has off and on since he was 10, he's now 20. When he was little, I was constantly correcting people when they referred to him as a girl, and on more than one occasion had to go full-on mama bear with people over his hair. I tell him all the time that he needs to trim it just because he has horrible split ends. But other than that, guess what, Idgaff? It's his hair, and he can do whatever makes him happy with it. I'm sorry that your mom doesn't support you on this. So, OP, from one internet mom to you, love yourself and everything that makes you, including your hair. Stories number 6. I stopped my sister's ex from ruining her wedding. Last January, my cousin got married, and her ex, whom we all hate, showed up. They had a toxic relationship that lasted over 2 years, and she even gave up her lifelong plan of studying abroad and settling there because of him. The guy comes from a wealthy family with wonderful, down-to-earth parents whom he doesn't deserve, unfortunately. He doesn't respect either his parents or my cousin. He manipulated her into leaving her friend circle, and he convinced her that we don't care about her since she is the youngest among us, causing a strain in her relationship with her parents and creating a divide within our family. I won't go into too much detail, but it took him cheating on my sister to make my cousin realize his true nature. Now, a year later, my sister decided to have an arranged marriage, and he decided to crash the wedding. I received a tip from a mutual friend that he planned to confess his love at the wedding, which was taking place in Goa. MF decided to show up so far. When he showed up, I confronted him and asked him why he was there. He admitted that he came to confess his love. I told him that this was not the right way to approach the situation, and that it had been years since their breakup. I explained that my cousin had blocked him everywhere for a reason, and didn't want any contact with him. I advised him to move on. For some reason, he thought it was a good idea to force his way past me. 2 of my cousins and the security staff caught him and escorted him out, ensuring he wouldn't cause any further disruptions. The wedding went well, and my sister is now happily married and living with her husband. A few days ago, I encountered the father of that guy at a sports club we both frequent. After chatting with him for a while, he brought up the incident and said that what I did was right. but I shouldn't have treated his son like trash. I tried to explain politely that his son wasn't cooperating, and I had to take appropriate measures. He didn't say anything further and simply walked away. Honestly, I know that what I did for my sister was the right thing, but it's disheartening to know how his parents feel about me now and what I did to their son. I'm now questioning whether there was an alternative measure I could have taken instead of forcibly removing him. TLDR, my cousin's toxic ex showed up at her wedding after manipulating her for years. He tried to confess his love despite being blocked by her everywhere. I confronted him. He tried to force his way past me, and he was eventually escorted out by security. The wedding proceeded successfully, and my sister is now happily married. However, the incident has left me feeling uneasy about how his parents perceive me. Comments. Comment 1. NTA. Toxic ex thinks he's the main character of a Bollywood movie. You did the right thing by kicking him out. You had to do it to prevent him from ruining your sister's wedding. You tried by asking him to leave respectfully, but it didn't work. Not your fault. Comment 2. Average Indian serial writer reply. If this was an Indian serial, he would have surely succeeded. Comment 3. His father understood what you were saying, and because he was embarrassed of his son's actions, he couldn't show his face to you. Him telling you that you could have handled it better was his fatherly side talking, but him waking away was his human side, embarrassed and defeated out of his son's actions. Comment 4. How is information getting leaked to him about her marriage and the location? There is a mole somewhere in the friends group. You need to eradicate that. If not, probably he will try sabotaging her arranged marriage too. Reply. I am 99% sure he got to know about this from his parents only. I mean, he lives in my sector only, and my dad also is the member of same club. Comment 5. I now feel that sometimes not all written on Reddit is true. Yar who comes uninvited to wedding like write some logical story please. Reply. You won't believe, but this story is like very famous among my uncles and aunties. Like it has been a very good gossiping story for past some months. Although it didn't bother me much until the club incident. Comment 6. I don't agree. We had a similar situation in one of our family weddings. Trust me. Some psycho can go that far. I don't know how the situation was handled, but he had literally barged in during the Ferris, asking to stop the Fira. He was then taken to the hotel room. Dunno how he was dealt later, so yes, this happens. Comment 7. You'd be surprised. My cousin's husband, who she is in the process of divorcing, called our aunt with cancer past midnight high on drinks, and threatened to have her murdered if the divorcing continued. So if someone can be dumb and insensitive enough to threaten a stage 4 cancer patient with murder, someone can easily barge into their ex's wedding update. I had a talk with my cousin today, and I asked her if her husband knew about the incident that took place. She said she had personally informed him about it. While her parents were not happy with what she said, her husband was okay with it. He mentioned feeling a bit uncomfortable upon hearing the news but was glad that people took care of the situation. He also considered lodging a complaint against that moron, but my cousin said it won't be necessary. Edit. Hey guys, thanks for the nice words. I guess I decided if that topic ever gets talked about again with the uncle, I think I might let him know the full story. Also, I can do much about it anyway. Stories number 7. My husband says he's angry that I'm pregnant again. I feel so alone. I'm just looking for advice and emotional support. Please be kind. My husband and I have been together for 4 years, married for almost 2 months. We have a little girl and we just found out I'm pregnant again. I am on trifacial contraceptive, but we still got pregnant. I recently lost my job and am actively looking. 2 possible opportunities to start within a week. He has a full-time job, $730 to $70,000. I have been sick for about a month now. I'm between 4 to 6 weeks pregnant. I always struggle with my tonsils, even before I had my first little one. But our country charged so much to get them removed. I felt better a week or so back, but this week I got severe sinus and ear infections. I also found out this week that I'm pregnant. When I initially told him, he was shocked I was too. He said we'll be fine. It's just another thing. I gave him his space to comprehend everything that's happened. I didn't try to push too hard, and at first I didn't want to tell anyone about the pregnancy, not until we are past 12 weeks. The same night I told him, he told his parents. That led to us telling all of our immediate family, mostly our parents and siblings. This morning we woke up, got our little one ready for a day with her grandparents, and he told me he wanted to talk. He told me that he's really unhappy that I'm pregnant again. He said his rage is bubbling up, and it's easy to be mad at someone, and that he doesn't want to take it put on me, but I'm pissing him off. His reasoning for his rage toward me is because the house was a bit of a mess this week, as stated earlier. I'm really sick. I have constant nausea and heartburn, and our little one has been sick for 2 days this week, so I also had to look after her. My sleep is also non-existent at this point. I need to go pee so many times at night. My throat burns while I'm sleeping. It's hard to swallow, and I get up every time I hear my little one cough. I didn't get to doing much of the dishes, only the necessities. I do laundry, but don't keep track of what outfit or piece of clothing is in which load. I didn't get a chance to fold any of the laundry. Almost every day this week he told me over text to relax, sleep, get better. Don't worry about the house, but then he hits me with this issue this morning. He also said that this has been a problem for quite some time now. He'll ask me where something is, but I'll reply with, I don't know. I can't really confirm or deny that. My memory is so bad the last few months, and there probably was a few times I couldn't tell him where something was. I tried to tell him that I'm not feeling well. I went to the doctor today, as well as my voice is completely gone for like 3 days now, and no medication is working. I told him that I would appreciate some help, even if it was just folding laundry. Yesterday I forgot to eat due to tiredness and being busy with our child, and it would have been nice of him to maybe make us some food. When I brought up the fact that I haven't eaten, he said I should make myself something. He had a big lunch and was still full. Every point I tried to make, he'd twist it and make it seem like it's my fault. After every hurtful thing he said, he'll come closer and say, I really do love you. The fight ended when he tried to tell me he loves me, and I responded with, no you don't. This isn't love. He got mad and went to work after that. I just don't know what to do anymore. I'm so tired of this. I feel like shit emotionally and physically, but after the fight I started deep cleaning the house. I felt bad for the state it was in. Almost as if I'm the worst wife and mother. I'm not willing to get an abortion or harm my unborn baby in any way. I am debating whether or not I should move back to my mother's house. I'm just scared he decides to harm me. I guess I needed to vent somewhere, but I'd appreciate any advice update. I went to my mom's place. It was the initial idea anyway. Before I posted, I packed bags for me and my little one. He is not home yet, so he doesn't know I'm gone. Thanks for the support and advice. I'd just like to say that the people who were grilling me for why I'm anti-abortion and asking what beliefs I follow, that was really not helpful and actually really rude. I'm not here to state a case on why I'm anti-abortion. And to the one commenter who was quite rude about my 9-paragraph story, I'd just like to point out that this isn't a short relationship. He wasn't like this for the first 2 years. He was the best person you could ever ask for, and then he changed. Abuse isn't this clear if it's something you grew up with and in the end fell in love with. I didn't feel the need to add anything about my childhood, as I felt that was too personal. Tough love in the form of comments doesn't really help. But once again, thanks to all for the helpful comments, thoughts, and advice. I'll update if I have any new info. Comments, Commenter 1. Assuming your mother would actually give you the love and kindness you need and deserve. It sounds as though that would be the best place for you. Pack up and go, leave the house dirty, he can clean it. Commenter 2. His reasoning for his rage toward me is because the house was a bit of a mess this week. What the actual hell? Tell him to do something for himself, I don't know. Maybe if something bothers him not being clean, clean it himself sometimes? You aren't raising him too, reply I forgot to mention. He said he'll do his own laundry and clean his own fishes, but then I'm not allowed to touch any of his stuff. If he buys drinks, sodas, I'm not allowed to drink it. If he buys the food, I'm not allowed to eat it. Basically, if he buys it, I'm not allowed to have any of it. Which is a weird thing to say when I'm actually thinking about it. Commenter 3, since you're so early in your pregnancy, seriously think about what you're bringing another child into. 2 children close together means a very messy house at times. If your gut is telling you that he may harm you, pack up the important things and leave immediately. Know that any change he claims is saving himself from embarrassment. He refuses to pitch in because it's not his job. Be prepared to be a single mother is all I'm saying. Too often we want men to change, but what he's doing to you is cruel, and it would hurt your children in the long run to be exposed to him, especially if he's bitter about your relationship. He is attacking you while you're sick, at your most vulnerable. Commenter 4, based on your comments down thread. This man sounds emotionally and financially abusive, and you're scared that he will become physically abusive? You are carrying his child and he won't allow you to eat the food that he purchases. It's unfortunate that you won't consider abortion because it doesn't sound like you're in a place, physically, mentally, or financially, to healthily carry a child. Your own health seems to be already suffering a lot. You have a daughter. You are modeling relationships to her. You are showing her how you think women should be treated. She is internalizing and normalizing everything she sees about your relationship dynamic. Do you want her to wind up in a similar relationship to this one? Since you won't consider an abortion, my advice is to fully focus on finding a job before you start showing. Once you have one, look for a lawyer. Ask your parents to lend you the money. If you go to stay with your mother before you can speak to a lawyer, make some excuse. Don't tell him you're leaving him until you have legal representation. Assume that he will try and screw you over as much as humanly possible. I wish I had more kindly advice, but this is a man who won't even provide food to his pregnant wife. Stories number 8. AIO for refusing to give up my honeymoon dates because my sister-in-law accidentally booked her wedding the same week. My husband 30M and I 29F have had our honeymoon booked for 8 months flights. Hotel, everything. It's the first real vacation we've planned together. And we're leaving the Monday after our 1-year anniversary. Last week, his sister 26F announced that she's getting married and her chosen date. The same weekend we leave, when my husband pointed that out, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize. But it would mean so much if you postponed your trip. Family comes first. We've already paid thousands. The hotel is non-refundable, and my time off at work was approved months ago." I told her gently that we can't change it. She got quiet, then started a group chat with the family saying we're ditching her wedding for a vacation. Now his parents are calling me selfish and saying I'm trying to sabotage her big day. My husband is caught in the middle and asked if I'd just move the trip a few days later to keep the peace. I said no, it's not my fault she picked the same week when she's known our plans for months, so now apparently, I'm the reason she's crying every night. And turning the family against her, AIO for refusing to postpone our honeymoon just to attend her last-minute wedding. Comments, commenter 1, Noor and his parents knew your dates as well. Ask them why the sabotage, or are they willing to give y'all the dollars you would lose to change dates? 'Cause you will need to plead a case at work. Commenter 2, family comes first. Bitch. You should have checked the calendar first then to see if your dates were compatible with that family you think comes first. Bullshit for keeping the peace. If SEL wants to keep the peace, she can move her wedding to another day. She did this to herself. Nor so what if you miss her wedding? She didn't think ahead or even consider you and your husband. Commenter 3, Noor. Oh boo-hoo, tell Bridezilla. You're manipulative MIL and fam that the trip was planned and paid for, non-refundable, and you are going. It was done ages before her wedding date was planned, and if she wants you there, she can change the date. I am so sick of family comes first. Turn it around on her and tell her to change her date because family comes first and you want to be there. Otherwise, go on your honeymoon as planned. Commenter 4, this is suspicious. If she just announced last week, how does she already have a venue, flowers, etc. booked? She can change her wedding date. Stories number 9. We broke the generational curse and I am so proud of us. OG, my youngest 25 lives with us. She went out with friends and overindulged a bit with drinks and asked us to pick her up. Her dad picked her up as I had an early meeting. She vomited in his new car, just basically burped and biffed everywhere. He got her home, told her to shower and cleaned his truck as much as he could at 2 a.m. She came down while he was cleaning and he told to just go to bed and don't worry about it. She went to bed. Next day he's filling me in on everything and did a deep clean on the truck. He was grossed out, but not mad. Never raised his voice. Made sure she was okay and just did what he had to do. She and I spoke about it. And it just hit me out of nowhere she never thought for a second we were angry. She never even worried we were going to flip out. It was an accident, not the end of the world. We both come from families who, if you made a mistake, you were made to feel like the biggest disappointment ever. Where you were at fault and you ruined everything and you don't deserve to be loved. We had to walk on eggshells and earn love in our homes. Our girls don't feel that way at all. They never doubt our love, and goddamn that feels so amazing. She learned a lesson as well. Don't mix drink types, wine and shots in this case. Comments, commenter 1, absolutely awesome. I myself am trying to do the same thing with my kids. Much younger than yours, but same goal. Reply. It's wild because you're always wondering if you are doing well. Then it just hits you out of nowhere. Commenter 2, a while back. I was at a cafeteria-style restaurant eating my food by myself and watched as a father and son were walking to the dining area after paying the cashier, each of them carrying a tray. The son was maybe 6 or 7, and as he walked, the tray tilted slightly. The dishes slid toward one edge, and he dropped the tray along with all of the dishes. I gasped, since I knew what happened next. The father would yell at his son for not being attentive, and then for years to come would bring up this incident to remind his son of his shortcomings. Instead, the father comforted his son and told him he had done nothing wrong, that they would get it cleaned up, and they could easily replace the food. I literally cried when it didn't unfold as it would have had I been that child. Commenter 3, yes, I would rather my daughter vomit in my new car than drive drunk. Or take an Uber, or have a stranger take her home. Yeah, an Uber might be safe, but you never know. Young people go missing all the time. A new truck is a material thing. It can be deep cleaned. Your precious daughter cannot be replaced. Commenter 4, this is amazing. A little different than parents and their kids. But I had a similar moment of clarity when my little sister dropped her plate of food by accident. She dropped it as I was walking into the kitchen, and she looked at me with that look of anticipation that kids give when they know or think they fucked up and about to get cursed out. Instead, I just laughed and helped her clean it up and made her another plate. I'm 8-9 years older than her, so at the time, more of an authority figure rather than her peer. The generational curse that was lifted in my anecdote was ignoring the instant desire to scold her like our mom would have, and instead just treat her like a kid that spilled her plate. Indeed, I'll save that for my daughter. Stories number 10. My 24F husband 26M left me passed out on the floor while sick, and then got mad at me the next morning. I see him different now? We've been married for a few years and have a baby. We had relationship issues after the baby, but I thought we had resolved them, and he promised he would be better and all that. He did get better. He did his share around the house, and house chores aren't a big issue because he just does what needs to be done without complaint or comment. But something at the back of my head felt off. I never really explored the nagging feeling, but now I realize that he never showed me any extra care. In fact, he gets upset or easily frustrated with me if I cause any extra inconvenience. Not sure how I didn't notice until now, so 2 days ago, I think I got sick. I was feeling that gross thick skin feeling and vertigo, lightheaded, IDK, and by nighttime I was shivering and freezing. I was still able to function, so I didn't think much of it. Complained to my husband about it, and then we went to sleep. Yesterday, I woke up feeling like my bones were lead. IDK how I functioned yesterday, but it felt like autopilot. My boss messaged me with some tasks, so I did them on my phone before my baby woke up. Rolled out of bed and somehow took my sister to school. Came back and worked some more. Usually I have energy to flip between being a mom and working, but yesterday I just laid on the floor to work while my 1-year-old watched some Mims Rachel, then had to pick up my sister from school, come home to make dinner. And by the time my husband came home, I felt dead on my feet. Anytime I moved, it felt like I was lagging and my body couldn't keep up. I told my husband this a few times. We ate. I put away the leftovers and put the baby to sleep while my husband went to his office to do some quick work. After this, I don't really remember because my brain was foggy. I found myself in his office. We exchanged a few words, but I don't remember what. And next thing I knew, I woke up alone in his office on the floor. I felt so heavy and out of it. It took so much effort to get up, but when I got out, all the lights were off. The kitchen was not touched, and he was in bed. I just stood in the kitchen and realized that he just doesn't care. I already knew he wasn't going to clean the kitchen tomorrow, and that he didn't care. I felt off. I had a busy day planned, and I didn't have time to wash all the dishes the next day, so I loaded the dishwasher and then went to bed. I laid down, and 5 minutes later, my husband very angrily told me to turn off the lights in the kitchen. At this point, I had no energy to deal with him, so I ignored him and fell asleep. The next morning, today, I woke up covered in sweat, but that gross feeling was gone. That's when I realized that I was sick. My husband was upset with me. He wouldn't talk or look at me and was stomping around. I tried to ask him about yesterday, but he just grumbled something about me confusing him. Everything from yesterday caught up, and I just can't see him the same. I realized that he has never taken care of me, or done anything that was inconvenient for him. I've been sick before, and every time it's the same thing. He gets upset at me somehow. After I had a baby, he was upset that nothing was kept up around the house, yet got angry with me when I fainted from overexertion at 2 weeks postpartum. I remember him yelling at me that I did this to myself and it's my fault for not taking care of myself, even though just 2 days before, he was telling me that he was angry with me for not keeping up with laundry and that I needed to clean the kitchen because it was starting to smell and he didn't want to cook anymore. Don't even get me started on how he never woke up at night. All these memories hit me and I just am disgusted by him. How did I not see this? What do I even do? I'm going to stop here before the post gets too long. Edit. He just texted me saying he's beat and could barely brush his teeth this morning. I don't even know what to respond. I can't believe I took care of this man every time he got sick. And after 2 surgeries, some of comments, commenter 1. Wait, you passed out in front of him and he just left you laying on the floor? I'm usually a work-on-things advice giver, but not here. Get a lawyer and figure out how to get out of there. Reply: that's the part I'm a little confused about. I have no idea what happened. I've only fainted once before, so I wonder if I just laid on the floor. He wouldn't talk to me this morning, and I kind of don't care to find out because it doesn't really matter. He left me there anyway. Commenter 2. My parents aren't in our life, but my sister lives at my disabled grandmother's. It's a long story, not relevant. Commenter 3. Is it possible he may have drugged you? I have passed out several times from severe anemia, but I've always had at least some memory of what happened when I woke up. It's also unusual to be passed out long enough for someone to shut down an entire house. Go to bed and fall asleep. It wouldn't hurt to visit an urgent care to have your blood tested for drugs. They can also complete a CBC to determine if you're anemic. Have you been having heavy periods since the birth? Reply: I actually am anemic. Wonder if that has something to do with it. I'll have to visit the doctor today. To a comment that recommends reading, Why does he do that? Reply: only a few chapters in and I had to put my phone down. I never thought of him as abusive until now. He's always the victim somehow, and that's what initially kept me with him in the beginning. Because I felt bad for him. I can't believe this. Update post: hi. So I'm still alive? I've had a surprising amount of people message me a week or two ago, and it's very kind of you people to care. I'll go right into what happened. I went to the hospital that day, since a shocking percentage of people suspected he could have messed with something. But no, the doctor said nothing came up. But he did say I had high blood pressure and recommended me to a cardiologist. I still have a month left before the appointment. When my husband got home from work, he was acting like everything was normal. I wanted to see if he would inquire at all about my faint the night prior, but nothing. So after the baby was settled for the night, I asked him why I woke up alone in his office. He got instantly angry with me and seemed annoyed I even brought it up. He said that I was acting confusing, and what was he supposed to do? I should have told him what I wanted him to do. I told him about my visit to the hospital, and he said that going to the hospital is a little much. I told him the doctor said I'm showing signs of heart issues, likely caused by stress. He blew up on me, yelling that I'm causing my own early grave and that it's my fault for not taking care of myself. With that, he closed himself in the room, leaving me to clean up after dinner alone again. Except I decided that I wouldn't, so I went on the couch and watched a movie. He came out suddenly friendly and flirty. He tried to lay with me and ask what I was doing. He kept trying to act cute, and when I wasn't showing much response to it, he got angry and stormed off, locking me out of the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to him slamming around the kitchen and cussing about how I couldn't even properly clean the kitchen. I just went to the bedroom and went back to sleep, if you can call it that, because he kept doing things to keep me awake. He complained later that day about how he was so hungry because I didn't make him breakfast or lunch. I gave myself a break day. I didn't work. Didn't focus on the house. I was just a mom and spent time with our baby. I went to the park, to the library, to my in-laws. I tried to talk to her about the heart thing, and she responded with poor husband's name. He's probably going to stress about this. That's when I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I got pizza for dinner and got home right after my husband. He was not happy, and it was different this time. I tried to ignore his obvious tension. He cleaned the kitchen very loudly and was muttering under his breath. I washed up our daughter and put her to bed, trying not to feel anxious when I came out. He started talking very aggressively about how I've been letting myself get lazy, and he won't take my lack of effort. A relationship is a two-way street, he said. I started yelling back about how I cook, clean, manage his child, and work at the same time, so how is it that I'm the one that's lazy when he keeps expecting me to do more things too? Things escalated and he started throwing dishes at me. When he ran out of things to throw, he strangled me. Then he left the house and I called the police. My baby was woken up. The neighbors were there because they heard yelling and glass breaking. It was chaos. When he came back, he tried to say I did everything. Even the bruises around my neck were self-inflicted, apparently. I'm still trying to process everything. It all happened so fast. Sometime I wonder what would have happened if I had just sucked it up and didn't rebel. Would our relationship be fine? I have my first therapy session scheduled for next Tuesday, so I guess I'll talk all about it then. My husband is at his mom's now. I'm at my grandmother's for now and have almost all my stuff out of our apartment. We have a temporary restraining order. Official hearing is tomorrow morning. I'm scared, if I'm honest. I haven't seen him since that night. My daughter keeps asking me where Dad is, and I don't know what to tell her. There's my update. I feel so numb to it all. I can probably type much more that happened, but it already feels so long. Plus, I don't want to cry again. Edit. I reread this all and I sound like a big whiny baby, oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I promise I don't sound like this in person, I also wanted to add a thought. I don't know if I would have called the police and all if I hadn't posted before. I honestly don't know. This is the most scariest thing he's done to me, but he's done plenty of other things before. When I originally posted, it was more of a vent post. All your caring, kind thoughts moved me. It gave me the little push I needed. I only have my little sister and my grandmother. I can't tell my grandmother any of these details because she's too frail and sensitive. My dad was an alcoholic and died while driving under the influence. My mom left us after that for a guy in Russia. I don't know how she's doing, but she used to treat us very poorly, so I don't really care. Point is, thank you all. The responses here are too kind, and I don't even know what to say. Comments. Commenter 1. Why didn't the police arrest him when they saw the bruises on your neck and the broken dishes? I think the police should have arrested him on DV charges. Reply. He did, but his mom got him out somehow 2 days later. I'm honestly surprised they even arrested him because they were being very rude to me, aside from a woman officer. Commenter 2. They were rude about strangulation marks? That's awful. They should be looking at it, not even just DV. That's basically attempted murder, or St. Least, felony assault, or whatever nation's equivalent. It would be under any other scenario. Reply, where I live. The cops aren't known to be very reliable, unfortunately. Commenter 3, okay, but did you go to the ER after being strangled? If not, you need to go ASAP. Because strangulation can cause serious internal injuries and complications that can kill you days after the fact. Please get checked out right away and thoroughly document every injury. And please press charges against this man. He wanted to kill you, and he very well could have if he hadn't chickened out and run away at the last minute. Also, documenting the physical violence and pressing charges will help you get and keep sole custody of your daughter. This man cannot be trusted with your child after his unhinged display of brute violence. The odds of him harming or killing her to get back at you are too great. Reply. Yes, I definitely did. That was enough proof for the temporary restraining order in my state, thankfully. One of the nurses was tearing up when she was taking my vitals and helped calm me and my baby down. She gave me some good advice on how to proceed, and I appreciate it every day. I've been talking to a lawyer my grandma knows, and I have some past proof of other incidents that should help me with my case too. Stories number 11. Lady wants a free empty seat on plane me, solo traveler. Flying internationally from Asia to US. Just getting checked in at the counter. On this plane. The seat layout is 3 seats, aisle, 3 seats, aisle, 3 seats. I ask the flight attendant if it's possible to move my middle seat to one that is the window or an aisle, but clearly state that it's fine if it's not possible. She gets me an aisle seat and I am jazzed. Next to me, woman and man looks like a couple. Doing the same. Woman. Are there any rows of 3 with an empty middle seat? Flight attendant. I'm sorry. I can't guarantee any seats will remain empty. I can seat you next to each other, though. Woman, no, I want to sit with an empty seat between us. Man murmurs something to her. Looks kinda embarrassed, woman. No, I like the extra room. We would like to be seated with an empty seat between us. Continues to make the same request to the poor flight attendant later. After boarding my flight, I realized that the middle seat between me and the other aisle passenger was open. And it made me smile. Lady, we all want the extra room, but we aren't entitled to it, Diam. Leave the poor customer service agents alone. Comments. Commenter 1. Miss, can you close the airplane's door now that we're here? So no more people come on? Commenter 2. I've told this story before in other past comments. I always pay for an aisle seat when I book my flight. About 2 years ago I was flying back home. Shorter flight, just over 2 hours. I had the aisle seat I chose and paid for. Couple comes in after me. Wife has the middle seat and wife the window. I let them in. Husband starts grumbling about the middle seat. Starts asking me to switch. To which I reply that I chose it and paid for it, sorry. So he starts offering me various amounts of money. I still refuse. After takeoff, he starts telling me about his wife. Asking me if I think she's attractive for her age. Telling me how friendly she is, etc. So after a few minutes of this type of conversation, I realized that he's insinuating that me switching seats would somehow end in a sexual encounter with his wife. I refused, put on my headphones and ignored him. The entire flight, the wife barely said a word to him and played with her iPad. Commenter 3. My wife and I spend a little extra for an extra seat. It's normally cheaper than a full seat because we both have bad reactions to being seated next to strangers due to being neurodivergent. If they want the extra seat, pay for it. Commenter 4. Her husband looks genuinely mortified to be standing next to her. Probably because she's trying to cheat the system in front of everyone. Stories number 12. My old classmate M. 21 wants me M22 to put in a good word for him at my job. I am 22, recently graduated from university. I got a job about a month ago and my old classmate M. 21 wants in as well. I feel that it would be inappropriate for me to rock the boat in terms of suggesting people to hire, as I don't know how my boss would take that, as I've only been there a month. And I just want to play it safe and leave no room for the devil. Also, giving certain people's contacts, I don't want it to bite me in the butt somehow. In the future, I really want to play it safe. Also, during uni, my classmate never helped me once. I was always helping him. When I wanted help, he made an excuse. Now he wants me to help some more out of university. That's too much. Why should I help me now? Also, he's only interested after he asked me my salary. I gave him an approximate range, and now he had a million questions. How should I approach this? Thanks TLDR. My old classmate wants me to help him get hired where I work. He was not a good friend to me during uni. Plus, I'm still new and don't want to cause any problems at work. What should I do? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Hey. Sure thing, I'll let them know if you send in an application. He won't if he does. You don't say anything. When he gets upset. Sorry. I guess I don't have that much pull as a new employee. Commenter 2. Unless you've worked with someone and know their work habits. I would strongly suggest not to recommend anyone, and you don't have to tell him anything. He will never know if you gave a recommendation or not. Commenter 3. Tell him that being that you are still a new employee, you don't feel it's appropriate to start suggesting new hires. And in any case, you aren't comfortable doing so. After that, I'd try to limit contact with him. Commenter 4. I wouldn't recommend doing this. It is a dangerous game. I have had a bit of experience with this in the past, with people reaching out to me on sites like LinkedIn, asking to meet with me to talk about breaking into my field, etc. I'm in a more senior role at this point. I will usually meet people if I have the time, but I've had a few occasions where people have asked if they can use me as a reference and/or name drop me in interviews, and I've had to be very firm in saying no to that. You don't know the quality of the work these people do. Their work habits, nothing. You don't put your reputation on the line like that. You should just tell him that as a brand new employee, you don't feel comfortable sticking your neck out and recommending hires at this point. A reasonable person should be understanding of that. Update. My old classmate M21 wants me M22 to put in a good word for him at my job. Anyways, I got a lot of suggestions on what to tell him. Thanks for that. And I pretty much decided on 3 things. Tell him to send an application on the jobs portal like everyone else. Once he applied, I would put in a good word for him. I wasn't gonna say shit, not give a single coworker's email, number, contact, etc. To him, I did send him to the company's page on LinkedIn, though, if he really wanted to talk to my coworkers. Backtrack. As we were talking, he started asking more and more questions about my job and just other stuff. Eventually, I found out he was sharing with other people our convo, 'cause our mutual friend and others brought some of the stuff up to me out of the blue. It was no biggie. It's just I didn't want many people to know I got a new job before I was settled in, and my ex-classmate went and told people behind my back. Also during our convo, I sensed a hint of jealousy, because he started to downplay my job and my employer and laughed when I brought up work stuff. Yet he wants to apply to where I work only after hearing the pay. It just made no sense, so yes, what happened next? I told him step 1 and 2, but he insisted that I give him my coworker's contact info first, and put in the good word. Then he'll pick things up from there. I said no. We went back and forth. After that didn't work, he wanted me to apply for him. His angle was playing dumb and thought I knew it best. I said no, he had to do it himself. He wasn't happy and tried to guilt-trip me hard. Eventually I said, if you just apply, I'll help with step 2 and 3. It was evident he was too lazy to apply. He said, are you gonna help me or not? Convo took a turn. I said, that's all I can do for now. Take it or leave. It's your choice. Then he blocked me. DR update. Ex-classmate blocked me after I didn't put in a good word for him. But yeah, thanks guys and gals for the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He wants you to do everything from application to the actual job. Nope. He's a lazy fellow. You'll destroy your name if you let this kind of employee at your job who doesn't want to do anything. Commenter 2. I don't think it's just laziness. The dude seems like someone who sees themselves as a genius manipulator. He is clearly not. When he didn't have any use for OP, he just threw him away. Commenter 3. Dude, if he's too lazy to apply, why would he ever expect you to put your name on the line for him? That's the kind of idiot who makes your boss think you're an idiot by extension for recommending them. I've only recommended a couple of friends for jobs, because in both cases I thought they would do really well there. Also in both cases, I made it clear that I was putting my reputation with my boss on the line by recommending them, so please don't screw me over. Commenter 4, consider this a bullet dodged. Whether or not you had put in a good word for him. If he'd gotten the job, he'd have made sure everyone there knew that you and he were connected. And then when he utterly and completely failed to do the job, that would have had an effect on people's opinions of you. This is the best possible outcome given his attitude. Stories number 13. Is it fair, or me 27F, to tell my husband 34M that he can't move with us if he isn't employed? To try and sum this up as simply as possible, he got fired from a great job in January. Since then he has tried maybe 2 or 3 odd jobs, none of them very well paying or lasting more than a couple weeks. He has contributed less than, maybe $2,000 to our family this year. We have 2 two-year-olds together. I've made about all the sacrifices I could to keep us afloat. Went into CC debt, worked 2 jobs at times. I make about $53K a year and work extra odd shifts for OT, but yeah. I gave up having an apartment this past summer because of debt accumulating. Recently, my parents offered to watch the kids more full-time so I don't have to pay for daycare, which would allow me to afford to support the 3 of us somewhat decently and get an apartment. I told him that if he can't get a job, like anything I'll even take 10 hours just something to help me, that he can't come with us. I can't support him too. He has no disabilities that would prevent him from working. I know it is a tough market, I know that. But we are coming up on a year and I just can't stomach him being at our apartment doing nothing, while our kids are taken care of so we can work, in any way possible. So if he can't do this, is it fair for me to say he can't come with us? Edit, about why I was paying for daycare. To clarify, I had my kids in a 2-day educational program. It was hard to afford, but I was doing this for their benefit. They are smart and deserved hands-on, and the social aspect, my mom has offered to take this over for us until I'm more financially secure. So not daycare, more like a school curriculum. I switched from a WFH position earlier this year for more pay. Up until that point, I was the kids' primary care. And working and finishing a degree, it has been a crazy year of transition. I'm just tired and confused, and I just want stability for myself and my children. I've grappled a lot for what is best for my kids. I'm new to the whole school daycare thing. Trying to do the best by the kids. He is a good dad. He loves them. He is failing me as an equal partner, though. Comments. Commenter 1. Why were you paying for daycare if he didn't have a job? Commenter 2. Why were you paying childcare if he didn't have a job? That's silly. He needs to contribute or hit the road. Commenter 3. If you do that, make sure you also file for legal separation. It's not a divorce, but it keeps you from becoming responsible for any bills that he accrues on his own. And it kinda sounds like that could happen, so CYA just in case. Commenter 4. I'll even take 10 hours. Stop begging for the bare minimum. All it will do is teach him to do the bare minimum, and even that will only be in short bursts. He's gonna do just barely enough until you let out a sigh of relief. Once you're off his ass, he'll stop even that little bit of effort again. Live separately until he can prove to be a functioning adult again. Right now you're treating him like a teenager. Stories number 14. Planted very hot chilies in front yard to reach thriving neighborhood kids a lesson. My front yard gets really good sun and is well sheltered, so I have a little veggie patch there. To give you the picture, I have a large native tree that grows recumbent along the front, forming a gorgeous natural barrier, but you can still access the yard easily from my driveway. I live in a quiet street and everyone knows the patch is there, and nice neighbors stop to chat with me when I work in it. I very often share the produce tomato, zucchini, radish, every 3 years an embarrassment of beans. If you know, you know. Lately I've noticed veggies going missing, and the plants often being damaged. I thought someone was hungry, so I started putting out a little baskets of ripe veggies they could just take, with a sign saying free to good home, and fruit from my backyard patch. But they were ignored and the damage continued. So I placed a hidden trail cam in the tree, and caught some neighbors' teenagers coming into the property and laughing as they ripped up plants and stuffed the veggies in their pockets and faces. I tried talking to their parents, but they were perhaps less than polite, more like verbally aggressive. So this season I just planted chilies, Carolina Reapers to be exact, and a couple bird's eyes. They are very commonly available at my local Bunnings. I put up a sign which is lit up by fairy lights at night stating very hot chilies, please do not touch. Then I sat back and enjoyed watching them ripen. Yesterday I noticed a few were gone when I came back from my night shift. I checked the footage and same kids had decided they'd try them. The results are fantastic. I haven't laughed that hard in a very long time. I feel somewhat guilty now though. I know damn well those things hurt like heck. And they picked them with bare hands, so good chance they got a second dose in the eyes or similar if they didn't wash them first. I'm torn between gales of laughter as I rewatch the footage. And guilt. AITJ. I'm in Australia BTW, which is why they are ripening now. Comments, commenter 1NTJ. Growing natural pest deterrents is a time-honored gardening tradition. You even posted lit signage that any intelligent being could read. Teenagers. None of us is as dumb as all of us. Reply, this is true, I forgot they deter pests. Do I grind them and spread them for that purpose, or... We'll have to look that up. Commenter 2NTJ. If a kid's parents don't teach them how to behave, their community will. Hopefully this can help them learn a valuable lesson. Reply, I think the kids are being let down pretty badly by their parents. They always look clean, healthy, etc., but I don't know. Not caring your kid steals and damages property seems like letting them down. Nevertheless, commenter 3NTJ at all. I wouldn't even have done them the courtesy of a warning sign. They are trespassing, damaging and stealing your property. Commenter 4. Natural consequences are a wonderful teacher. Why would you feel guilty? You even warned them. Reply cause. I know they would have been in a world of physical pain for an extended period. I feel kinda bad. Reapers might have been a step too far. And I'm looking askance at myself for laughing as hard as I did. Stories number 15. Nosy mother had my child take an ancestry test without my consent. Wibta to report her and get 10 years of progress removed. My parents' mother especially have had an extreme hyperfixation on ancestry DNA for the better part of a decade. They bombard-read, harass the fuck out of extended family members with calls and messages full of questions they can't want to answer, and have even bullied a few of them into taking tests themselves. They refuse to take no for an answer, and badmouth their current targets to literally whoever listens until they cave in. Literally no one fucking cares about the shit but them. When my child was 6, I got an email to my phone I wasn't supposed to see. Because it came to my ex's email that I didn't know was still in my phone, I never got notifications for it until that day. My stupid-ass ex and their mother had taken my child across state lines to take a paternity test, and told my child it was a secret and not to tell me. The email was the result 99.9%. Trust I also wish it was 0. But alas, I have a tendency to be faithful even to a bum. My child ended up telling me about a secret dentist trip they went on. I mention this situation only to say my mother knows how pissed I was about this. There is never a reason to have my child withhold information from me. Plus the stupids only did it because they owed the IRS and was banking on my tax return to start paying it off. Bitch, no, is you fucking cool, said stupid-ass ex died last year. My mother took it upon herself to research ex's family to be nosy. She couldn't find much, so she mentioned wanting to call ex's mother, they literally do not know each other, to ask questions about things that just genuinely aren't her place to ask about. She got mad when I told her to stop, because I'm just trying to find my grandbaby's family. They might marry their cousin, which is a lie because whatever tea she thought she could find she would try to gossip about. She wants to find secret families across town type shit. Who killed their spouse, who went to jail type shit. Lady, you're annoying. Okay, anyway, sorry. Was just casually told by my child that a few months back my mother made them spit into a tube to find my other parents' family, but immediately looked like they weren't supposed to say that. I am pissed, so because you couldn't be nosy the way you wanted, you go behind my back and put my child's DNA into a database I did not consent to. Because you're fucking nosy and can't respect boundaries. Plus, my child is way under 13, which means they shouldn't have even been able to have a test submitted. Her ass is a perpetual line stepper. They, my parents, try and dictate how literally everyone else in the family should raise their kids. Undermine everyone's authority over their own children, and think they have the final decision over everything. That being said, I'm pretty sure this is illegal and TBH I'm tired of this ancestry shit. So Wibta if I report her ass to Ancestry and get possibly a decade of work erased? Cause ATP you just tried to play in my damn face. I fully plan on confronting her literally tomorrow, and won't leave them alone with her anymore after this. Because it's not the first time she's done wild shit behind my back. I just wanted to know Wibta for reporting her to Ancestry. Edit, sorry, I'm used to speaking in a gender-neutral fashion at all times. I'm mom, ex was dad, child is still child LMFAO. I don't wish my child wasn't mine. Sorry if that wasn't clear, LMAO. Edit again. Okay, y'all. The paternity test they did behind my back and the ancestry DNA test are two different situations. I don't care about the paternity test. That's irrelevant. I was just mad about them trying to get my child to hide it from me. I was just using it as a comparison because my mother knows I don't do that "don't tell mommy" mess. My child knows not to keep secrets and usually tells me everything down to how big their last poop was. If someone tries to get to keep a secret, they usually tell me immediately. Even it's mostly ruining a surprise, I am deeply attracted to ice cream and mangoes. I am often surprised with ice cream or mangoes. Child is neurospicy and forgets a lot. Will forget something for months, but the moment it comes to their head, it comes out of their mouth. They know we don't keep secrets, but I do appreciate the concern truly. Also, she did this purely out of nosiness. My ex's family knows their extended family members. My mother just wants to gossip about tragic deaths and kissing cousins. Since I told her not to, and since she probably got stuck trying to do independent research, her bird ass decided to make my baby spit in a tube because she thinks she's Henry Louis Gates Jr. I hope this cleared everything up so I don't have to edit again. LMFAO, comments. Commenter 1, NTA. I have many thoughts about what you've told us, and the one that sticks out is that as soon as a child is asked to hide anything from their primary caregiver of all people, then you've found your assholes. It's so full on that just reading about it near did my head in. Sending you much love. Commenter 2, hi. Genetic genealogist here, NTA, but this can reach far beyond ancestry. Once DNA is uploaded into Ancestry's database, the file of raw DNA results can also be downloaded and then uploaded into other online databases as well. Without taking another test, you absolutely can and should contact Ancestry and let them know that you have custody of your child, and their DNA was sent in against your wishes. The file can be deleted from their site on their end without your mother knowing. But if grandma has downloaded it and uploaded to other sites, Ancestry can't help you with that. You may need to hire someone or even go to the police to make sure she hasn't uploaded to any other sites. There are several out there that will accept an Ancestry raw file upload. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I wish it weren't so in your case. This would all be very different if your child was an adult and making their own decisions. But for now, that choice should be yours alone to make. I'm sorry your mom broke your trust. ETA, holy cow, y'all, thank you for the awards. That's so kind of you, but truly not necessary. I just help where I can. Next time you're out shopping, grab an extra canned food item and donate it to a food pantry on my behalf. Let's put good out into the world. Reply, hello, this was very, very insightful, thank you. She usually just sticks to Ancestry DNA, but I will do what's possible to make sure it's all gone. Thank you for your insight, I appreciate it. Commenter 3, NTA. No one should be doing DNA testing without your knowledge and participation on your underage child. You might also call the non-emergency line of the police and ask if this is illegal. I wouldn't allow your parents to see your child alone. Reply, I won't. I decided on that months ago when I would sometimes call to talk to my kids, and that child would be gone with the other parent's family. Visits needs to go through and be approved by ME. I just want to be asked and notified first. I got why would I need to ask you? And my grandbaby can go wherever I say they can as a response. So my kids haven't been back except for one overnight while I was in the hospital. No more being alone and definitely no overnights for sure. Commenter 4 NTA. I'd go as petty as I could at this point, and see if I could get her banned from Ancestry at this point. It'd be the ultimate punishment if your mom's as obsessed with using it as you say she is. Reply, yeah, getting her account banned is my one goal cause it's her pride and joy and favorite pastime. You mess with the bull, you get my ass to kiss. Stories number 16. My husband admitted to cheating on me 2 years ago. Yesterday, my husband found his old phone that he stopped using 2 years ago after he got an upgrade. He wanted to give it to our oldest as a phone she can watch videos on and play her dress-up games with. I was going to hard reset the phone, and then I saw the messages. 2 years ago, while he was stationed in Japan, he had an affair with another woman. She is also from the States, and they were essentially in an online relationship for the duration of him being there. They sexted, he sent her photos and dirty TikToks. He told her he was going to leave me for her. He told her he wished it was her instead of me, and that he loved her. They got into an argument and broke up. He begged her to take him back. He told her he loved me, but there was just something about her. He called her all the names he calls me. He complimented her the way he did me. He told her he wanted to go see her. Seeing him tell her that he wished it was her instead of me is what stings the most. I've been a great wife. 2 years ago I was at my peak of physical fitness. I was supportive of him in everything he wanted to do. I went out to Japan to see him, and I made FaceTime dates with him. I was doing everything a good wife did. I was his shoulder to cry on when his cousin took his own life during that time. I miscarried our child, and he was telling another woman he loved her. When I confronted him, he immediately got angry at me, and then told me he only did it because he liked the attention from her. He said he felt guilty, but he liked the attention too much. I don't know what to believe. I couldn't sleep last night, but he went to sleep just fine, snored away while I laid there crying. I can't stop shaking and I've thrown up. My mind feels so empty. If I'm not crying, it's like I'm on auto. He made me the bad guy for looking at the messages. He said it was 2 years ago, so it shouldn't matter now. It may have been 2 years ago, but it's new information to me. I don't know what else is a lie anymore. I feel so empty. He keeps telling me I'm going to divorce him and take the kids. He only seems worried about how this impacts him. He doesn't seem to care how this is impacting me. When we were talking about it, I got physically sick and it didn't even faze him. He went so cold towards me at the switch of this flip. I truly believe he loved her and wanted to be with her instead. He only chose me because she wouldn't take him back. Comments. Commenter 1. He begged her to take him back. He would have carried on. When I confronted him, he immediately got angry at me and then told me he only did it because he liked the attention from her. Honestly, leave this post, or this is your life from now. And if you tolerate this situation, you and your children will suffer for years. Stay safe, OP. You deserve so much better than this. Good luck, commenter 2. Girl, leave that man. Sounds like military, and I have first-hand experience with many soldiers who dealt with did the cheating. He wasn't just looking for attention. He broke your trust without you even knowing, and you had to find out 2 years later. If he did it, hid it, and never spoke on it, believe he could do it again? You should consider leaving, and if you stay, I beg you to go to counseling together. This will bother you for the rest of your life, whether you stay or not, so make sure you have the help and support you need. Commenter 3. If you have solid proof, nail him for adultery, and her if she is also married. Adultery is punishable under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is why he is worried about what will happen to him. Bonus points if you can show it's disrupting his unit or job. Contact your base legal office, or even better, get your own counsel to help you with military justice. This exact scenario happened to a good friend of mine. She was the best wife to him. They were high school sweethearts. 2 beautiful kids. They were an amazing family. He deployed all the time and they were all used to it, but as soon as he went to Japan, he found someone there and fell in love because he was so lonely. Mind you, this was only a 4-month tour. My friend bent over backwards for him and made sure he felt loved while he was away. All while working full-time active duty and taking care of her kids alone, and he still did it. It doesn't matter how beautiful, smart, funny, or perfect you are, some boys would bang a cold rotisserie chicken just to get off. I can't imagine the heartbreak of this betrayal, but just know this is all on him. Not you, and you deserve much better. He will have his reckoning one day. Commenter 4 sounds like my soon-to-be ex. I was everything a good wife should be to a deployed soldier as well. He literally said, "None of that matters now. It's in the past," when I pointed it out and said, "I don't deserve this. You don't deserve this either. As much as you love him, do you really want to spend the rest of your life stressed out, worried that he is cheating? Get your affairs in order, email bank statements, etc. I would put money down that as soon as you leave him, he will cut you off from everything. Reply, we do have separate finances, but I truly appreciate the insight. If I do leave, I know I need to have things figured out first. I'm sorry you're going through the same. How do you cope? Everything just feels so heavy right now. Stories. Number 17. The day I accidentally called my CEO by his first name. So, I'm 24 and about a year into my first real corporate job at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. I started as a junior analyst, one of those hybrid roles where you're kind of doing a bit of everything, from data cleanups to presentations nobody reads. It's a good job, great pay for my age, and honestly, I've been trying to make a solid impression. I'm not flashy, not loud, just trying to climb the ladder without tripping over it. Anyway, last Friday, I managed to screw up in a way that somehow feels both ridiculous and career-threatening. Our CEO, Charles Whitmore, is this old-school type. Late 60s, always in a tailored suit, always calm, always giving off "I've seen it all" vibes. The man's a legend in our industry. People lower their voices when he walks by. He's also one of those "good morning" team kind of bosses who says 3 sentences a day but everyone remembers them like scripture. So yeah, intimidating, every quarter. We do a company-wide town hall meeting. It's a big deal. Everyone's there. Executives, department heads, new hires. And it's both in person and streamed online for remote staff. It's meant to be casual, but still formal enough that people rehearse what they say. I'd never spoken in one before, but this time, my manager asked me to present a small update on a data integration project I'd been leading. I spent the entire week prepping. I had charts, bullet points, the whole thing memorized. I wasn't nervous about the content. I was nervous about messing up in front of hundreds of people, including Charles. The meeting started fine. Charles did his usual greeting. Something about growth and innovation, challenging the next frontier, blah blah. Then other execs spoke. When it got to my part, my heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear myself. But once I started talking, it actually flowed. Until the end, I wrapped up my slides, and Charles smiled at me from the front row, which, I swear, felt like getting a gold star from the Pope. He said, "Excellent work, thank you for that update." And without thinking, without any filter between my brain and mouth, I said, "Thanks, Chuck." Yup, I called our 60-something CEO, Chuck. The air got sucked out of the room. I don't even remember deciding to say it. My brain just short-circuited and went, "He's smiling, you're good." Throw in a friendly tone to sound confident. It was dead silent for a beat, then a few awkward chuckles from the back. Charles smiled politely, not angry, just that thin, polite smile that means you absolute idiot. But I'm too classy to show it. He nodded once, and I swear I saw his eye twitch. Then he moved on to the next speaker. My stomach dropped. After the meeting, I tried to laugh it off, but the people around me weren't helping. My manager patted my shoulder and said, "Hey, maybe stick to Charles next time?" One of the IT guys whispered. Dude, that took guts. Which wasn't comforting at all. But the real problem came later that afternoon. I got a message from Deborah Lang, one of our VPs. She's in her early 40s, sharp as hell, runs operations. She's basically the person who keeps the entire company from falling apart. Her message just said, "Hey, can you stop by my office for a quick chat?" My stomach immediately tied itself into a knot. I went in, and she motioned for me to sit down. No smile, no small talk, she said. "So, about this morning, I started apologizing right away." "Yeah, I didn't mean any disrespect. It just slipped out," she raised a hand. "I'm not angry. But I need to explain something to you about perception." She went on to tell me that while the CEO probably wasn't personally offended, calling him Chuck in front of the whole company created an optics issue. She said that senior staff have to maintain certain boundaries, and using informal nicknames publicly could be seen as undermining authority or professionalism. I nodded along, feeling like a scolded middle schooler. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You're good at what you do, and people like you. But in corporate culture, being too casual, especially in front of leadership, can backfire. You don't want to look like you don't understand hierarchy." I said I understood and apologized again. She said it wasn't the end of the world, but word gets around fast. That was the understatement of the century. By Monday morning, half the company knew about the Chuck incident. I got jokes in the break room, emails signed, Chuck approved, and one of the designers made a meme with my face and the caption, "Keep it casual." Kid, it was funny, until it wasn't later that day. I had a meeting with Charles's executive assistant about an upcoming report. I was professional, formal, doing everything by the book, but near the end, she gave me this kind, almost sympathetic smile and said, "Don't worry, he didn't take it personally. He actually thought it was kind of endearing. But, maybe don't do it again, apparently." Charles himself mentioned it in the exec meeting later that day, jokingly saying, "At least someone still thinks I'm young enough to be called Chuck." Everyone laughed, apparently. So, at first, I thought I was in the clear, but as the week went on, I noticed something subtle shift. My manager, who used to be super chatty with me, started looping me out of meetings. I wasn't getting CC'd on emails I normally would. A small project I'd been leading got handed off to another team member, for bandwidth reasons. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But when it kept happening, I started getting paranoid. Was I being quietly punished for calling him Chuck? I ended up asking my manager about it directly. He hesitated, then said, "No one's mad. It's just, leadership wants to make sure everything you do is fully aligned before putting you in front of execs again. Optics, you know?" Translation? I embarrassed someone. Even if they're pretending it's fine, I've been spiraling about it ever since, like, did I really derail my career over one word? One nickname? I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I just froze and went with what felt natural in the moment. Now I'm in this weird limbo. I do my job, keep my head down, call everyone by their full names like I'm reciting an oath, and avoid any chance of public speaking, but deep down, I keep wondering if that one slip-up marked me as the kid who doesn't know how to act around executives. And the worst part? Every time I see Charles in the hallway, he smiles that same calm, unreadable smile and says, "Good morning?" in the exact same tone he always did. It's polite, it's professional, and it drives me insane because I can't tell if he actually likes me or if I'm now a permanent office punchline. So yeah, that's how I, a 24-year-old trying to make a name for myself, accidentally called my CEO Chuck in front of 300 employees, and might have changed my office reputation forever. The irony? My dad's name is Chuck, so apparently my brain just defaulted to father figure mode, and honestly, that's somehow more humiliating than the entire incident combined. Update. It's been almost 3 weeks since the Chuck incident. And just when I thought the whole thing had died down, it somehow came back to life. Like an awkward zombie dragging itself out of the office Slack channels. I figured I'd give an update because things actually got weirder, more human, and somehow even more corporate at the same time. So first off, the fallout from calling the CEO Chuck had kind of stabilized. I wasn't getting openly teased anymore. The memes died down, people had new gossip, and I'd gone back to blending into the cubicle wallpaper, which, honestly, was all I wanted. But here's where it gets interesting. A few days ago, our company hosted this leadership engagement happy hour at a downtown hotel bar. One of those networking events where everyone's supposed to mingle, sip wine, and pretend they're not mentally checking their inbox every 5 minutes. I almost didn't go, my manager encouraged me, saying it'd be a good chance to reconnect with people and show face after the presentation thing. So fine. I went, I figured free drinks and maybe some redemption. I walked in and immediately saw half the executive team clustered around a corner table, including Charles, I swear. My fight or flight kicked in. I was fully ready to grab a drink, say hi to a few coworkers, and sneak out before anyone important noticed me. Of course, the universe had other plans. As I was chatting with one of the finance analysts, I heard someone call my name. Not "Hey kid," not "Data guy," but my actual name. I turned, and there was Charles waving me over. I froze for half a second, then walked over trying to play it cool. He was smiling, genuinely not the polite CEO smile. He gestured to the seat next to him and said, "Join us for a minute." My entire soul screamed, "Do not mess this up again." So I sat down, smiled, and said, "Thanks, Mr. Whitmore." He chuckled. "Oh, come on, don't start that. It's Charles, I swear." My brain almost short-circuited again. I must have looked visibly confused because he added, "You called me Chuck once, right?" That made me laugh. My golf buddies have called me worse. I didn't know whether to laugh or apologize, so I just said, "I think that might go down as my most memorable professional moment." He laughed again. Like, actually laughed. Then he told me something that completely flipped how I'd been viewing this whole situation. He said, "Look, when I was your age, I once called my CEO Buddy during a client meeting. Thought I was going to get fired instead. He told me it was nice to see someone not afraid to speak like a human being. I didn't forget that." Then he looked at me and said, "You've got good instincts. Don't let a moment like that make you shrink back. Just learn from it and keep going." I honestly didn't know what to say. I think I muttered something like, "Thank you. I appreciate that," which probably sounded like I'd just seen the burning bush. We ended up chatting for about 10 minutes, about my project, what I liked about the company, what I wanted to do long-term. He was surprisingly open and easy to talk to. He even made a joke about how corporate etiquette is half performance, half common sense, and that the older he gets, the more he prefers when people just speak plainly. Then, get this, he said, "If you're interested, send me a short email about what you do differently with the analytics platform. I like people who think in action steps, not buzzwords." I practically had to stop myself from fainting. After that, he got pulled into another conversation, and I floated away in a daze, clutching my drink like it was a security blanket. Later that night, Deborah, the VP who'd given me the optics lecture, found me near the exit. She smirked and said, "So, I see you got your redemption arc." I told her about what Charles said and she nodded. "That's good. He's old-fashioned about respect, but he likes sincerity. He probably appreciated that you didn't try to overcorrect." Then she surprised me again by saying, "For what it's worth, I didn't mean to scare you that day. I just didn't want you to get labeled as the too casual kid. Happens fast in this industry. You're talented, you just needed a reset, I thanked her. And we actually ended up talking for a while. About career paths, office politics, how perception can make or break opportunities. She told me something that's been stuck in my head ever since. Every mistake has a half-life. The faster you show growth, the faster it decays. Honestly, I've been repeating that line to myself all week. Anyway, I followed through on what Charles said. I spent a few nights putting together a short, focused email outlining some efficiency ideas for the analytics system. Nothing crazy, just actionable steps. I sent it on Monday morning, half expecting radio silence. 2 hours later, his assistant replied saying, "Charles asked me to schedule a meeting with you next week to discuss your proposal." I just sat there staring at the screen like, what the actual hell? So yeah, somehow my career went from the guy who called the CEO Chuck to the guy who got a one-on-one meeting with the CEO. I don't know what's going to come out of it yet, but I can tell you one thing. That moment taught me way more about corporate life than any training module ever could. People always tell you to be professional, to play the game, to never slip. But what nobody mentions is that authenticity, when paired with respect, actually sticks. It makes you memorable. In a way that pure politeness doesn't. I still cringe thinking about that original moment. My voice echoing in that silent auditorium. Me blurting out, "Thanks, Chuck," like an overexcited intern. But now, instead of seeing it as humiliation, I kind of see it as a pivot point because it forced me to grow up, to balance being myself with understanding how perception works, to realize that people, even CEOs, appreciate effort, humility and humor more than flawless performance. So next week, I'll sit across from Charles Whitmore again, probably sweating bullets but smiling. And this time, I'll call him by his name, just Charles, no Chuck, no sir, no overcompensating apology. Just a guy trying to do his job right, with a little more confidence and a lot fewer verbal landmines. And if that's not growth, I don't know what is. Final update. It's been about 6 weeks since that fateful Chuck moment, and nearly 3 since my follow-up meeting with Charles. And honestly, the whole thing has evolved in ways I never would have predicted. If you told me that one slip-up would end up being the most pivotal moment of my career so far, I'd have laughed back then, but here we are. So yeah, buckle up. Because a lot happened when I posted the last update. I'd just gotten an email from Charles's assistant scheduling a one-on-one meeting with him. It was for the following Thursday, 11 a.m., in his corner office on the top floor. The one with the glass walls and skyline view that looks like it was designed by a Bond villain. I spent the next few days nervously prepping. I kept tweaking the proposal, rereading my email drafts, rememorizing data points I knew I wouldn't even need. The morning of the meeting, I was terrified. I wore my nicest shirt, double-knotted my tie, and tried to act calm, but inside I felt like I was going to a job interview for my own job. When I got to his office, his assistant smiled at me and said, "He's ready for you." I walked in, and there he was. Charles Whitmore, sitting at his massive walnut desk, reading something on his tablet. He looked up, smiled, and said, "Come in, have a seat, Nick." He remembered my name. That shouldn't have meant as much as it did. But it did. I sat down, handed him a printed copy of the proposal, and started walking him through my ideas. It was about streamlining the company's analytics process, consolidating redundant data reports, automating a few manual tracking systems, and creating a single dashboard to improve interdepartment communication. He listened, really listened. No interruptions, no phone checking, no impatient glances at the clock, just steady focus, nodding occasionally, asking a few questions that showed he actually understood the details. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "This is good, simple, clear, and practical. You know how rare that is?" I think I stammered out something like, "Thank you, sir. Charles." He smiled at that. "See? You're learning." Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. "I talked to Deborah about you. She said you took feedback well and didn't get defensive." I blinked. "She said that?" He nodded. "She also said you handled the nickname incident better than most people would have. You took a hit, learned, and kept your head down. That's how you survive in this business." He paused, then said, "I like people who can take a hit and keep improving, so I'm assigning you to a pilot project." I must have looked like a deer in headlights because he laughed. "Don't look so shocked. It's not a promotion yet, but it's an opportunity. Work with operations and IT to start implementing your data integration idea. If it goes well, you'll lead the next phase. My brain was basically doing backflips. I tried to play it cool, but I think I said something like, "I won't let you down," which sounded way more dramatic than I meant it to. He chuckled again. "Relax, you already didn't. Now go make it work." And that was that. I walked out of his office feeling like I'd just stepped out of an alternate reality. Deborah caught me in the hallway later and smirked. "So? How'd it go?" When I told her about the project, she nodded. "Good. You earned that. Just remember, in this company, reputation isn't about never messing up. It's about how you handle it when you do." That sentence kind of became my mantra after that. Fast forward 3 weeks. The pilot's now in motion. I've been working with a small cross-department team, and honestly, it's been going great. The IT lead even told me Charles personally checked in for progress updates, which is basically unheard of for someone at my level. Here's the wildest part, though. Last Friday, we had another town hall. When Charles wrapped up his presentation, he said he wanted to highlight a few examples of initiative and problem-solving. He mentioned my project. By name, he said, "I appreciate when people at any level of the company think critically about how we can work smarter. That's the kind of energy that drives innovation." He didn't mention the incident, thank God, but I could feel people glancing my way, and a few coworkers gave me discreet thumbs-ups. Afterward, as people were milling around, Deborah came over and said, "Well, I think that's officially your redemption arc," I joked. "Yeah. From Chuck to Charles in 6 weeks," she laughed and said, "Hey, that might be the title of your career memoir one day." And maybe she was right. Because honestly, that moment changed something in me. For weeks after that first screw-up, I'd been living in constant self-doubt. I felt small, like one stupid word defined my competence. But the truth is, everyone has a moment where they trip in front of the spotlight. Some people shrink away from it. Others use it to grow. That day I called him Chuck. It taught me more than any corporate training ever could. Not just about professionalism, but about humility, perception, and the power of owning your mistakes. I learned that leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being accountable. Charles never treated me like I was beneath him after that. If anything, I think he respected me more for not making excuses. He even stops by sometimes when I'm working late, just to say, "How's my data guy doing?" In that same calm tone, but now with a small grin. It's subtle, but it feels like trust. So, what happens now? Well, the pilot project's going well enough that there's talk of making it company-wide. I'm still not holding my breath, but if it happens, I'll be leading a team. Something I couldn't have even imagined 2 months ago. And all of it, every step, every opportunity, somehow traces back to one awkward, impulsive moment when I accidentally called the CEO Chuck. It's funny how life works like that. Now, every time someone new joins the company and nervously asks me for advice, I tell them this: you're going to mess up at some point, everyone does. Just don't let that be the end of your story. Let it be the first page of a better one. And yeah, maybe someday, when I'm in my 60s and some nervous 20-something calls me dude in a meeting, I'll smile too, and remember the day I called my CEO Chuck. Stories number 18. Am I overreacting for leaving my boyfriend and his mom's birthday dinner after feeling completely disrespected? Hi everyone, I 31F have been with my boyfriend 30M for 4 years, and we've lived together for 3. Things have been mostly stable, but this week something happened that really shook me, and I'm not sure if I overreacted. We went out to dinner to celebrate his mom's birthday. During supper, my boyfriend was scrolling on his phone, so I gently told him to put it away so we could enjoy each other's company. It was a special occasion after all. His mom immediately jumped in and said, "How you gonna tell him what to do?" Then she looked right at me and asked, "Don't you think women should be submissive?" I was a bit thrown off but stayed calm and said something like, "To a certain extent, it depends on the type of relationship, and if the man is the provider." Then my boyfriend laughed and started mocking me in this condescending tone, saying things like, "Oh, she's a baddie, a hot gyal, independent. She doesn't need to submit to anyone." I don't even talk like that about myself, so it felt humiliating and dismissive. His mom added, "Women who don't listen end up alone," and he nodded in agreement. I sat there stunned, wondering why they were both suddenly teaming up on me. Then he said to his mom, "She acts like that and wants to get married." His mom laughed and said, "Oh, you want to get married, son?" And he just shrugged like he was unsure. I tried to diffuse the tension by joking, "If you don't want to get married, tell me now. I'll call my cab." but it came out awkwardly because I was already hurt. His mom kept going, warning me again that independent women end up alone. Then my boyfriend took it even further and said, "You know, women's reproductive systems dry up while men can still make sperm forever." At that point, I completely shut down. I had an abortion earlier this year. It was something that was really hard for me, and he knows I've been anxious about having children and getting older. I excused myself from the table because I felt so triggered and humiliated. Later, back at his mom's place, I asked him why he would join in that kind of conversation and make me feel targeted. Instead of showing any empathy, he said I was being rude for claiming to be independent, and that if I didn't see why the conversation went that way, he didn't need to explain it to me. I got really upset, went upstairs, packed my things, and left. It's been 3 days now. He hasn't reached out or apologized. He says I'm overreacting, and that neither he nor his mom were talking about me directly. He claims I blew it out of proportion. But I can't shake this feeling that I was being gaslit and disrespected. I felt completely ganged up on, and the comment about women's bodies pushed me over the edge. So, Reddit, am I overreacting for leaving that night? Do I owe him an apology for walking out, or do I deserve one for how I was treated? Comments, commenter 1, you did the right thing. Please never go back to either of them. Commenter 2, bro WTF, please remove him from your life. Continuing this relationship will literally drain you and your surroundings. His mother will hover over you, and whatever decision you take with her son, no man is allowed to disrespect his girl, let alone in public. Commenter 3, so let me get this straight. Oh, you had an abortion, knowing you want children when the father was your boyfriend, who you had lived with for 2+ years and you were both around 30 years old. And with that context, he basically told you how he doesn't have to rush marriage and can just waste your time seeing if he can coerce you into being who he wants you to be. BC, he can have kids with a 20-year-old when he's 50 if he doesn't decide you are worthy of it, before you are too old to procreate. And your question is, if you should apologize, he should have been your ex when you had the abortion, and most certainly should be now. He has told you who he is and how little he cares about you. You are underreacting. Reply, thank you. You are so right. I needed to hear this. Commenter 4, Nor. He basically told you that your feelings don't matter. Time for you to let him and his mom be a happy couple. Go pick up any stuff at his place and make sure he knows that he is the one who is dependent on his mommy, and that you will never be submissive to him, or dependent on him again. Stories number 19. Aita for telling my parents that I will go away on a trip if they invited guests to my house. I live in a very popular tourist city. I live in a small 1BR apartment where I don't even have all types of furniture. I have a bed, sofa, dresser, and electronics, but no dining table or chairs. My income is slightly below average, and I have had 0 savings this year. I'm a bit financially irresponsible, and the cost of living is too damn high. My parents planned a trip to visit me for a month after I begged them to come visit me. However, due to the fact that they dragged their heels in planning, I told them that I would be away for 2 days for a friend's bachelorette party. I had committed to these dates far in advance and couldn't back out. On an unrelated note, the bachelorette trip was postponed due to other people dropping out. 3 weeks before my parents' onward journey, they informed me that they had extended an invitation to their friends who could be instrumental in getting business for my dad's firm. The plan was for them to stay at my apartment. My mom said that I should probably ask my friend if I could stay at her place. I don't want to do that because the friendship has felt off and unbalanced for some time, and I don't want to be indebted to my friend anymore. So I told my mom that 5 grown adults cannot cohabitate in a 1BR apartment. Maybe they should consider putting the guests in a hotel. To that, they said the guests wanted to stay family style. If we put them in a hotel, we might offend them. I ended up telling my parents that I will plan a trip during the time the guests stay at my apartment. My mom got offended by that and said I should stay in the city so that I could help them out in case of emergencies. TLDR, unwanted guests invited to my tiny apartment made me want to flee the city. Am I the asshole? Edit. Thank you everyone for your thoughtful responses. I understand that it is a matter of setting up better boundaries with my parents. That's something I struggle with a lot. I don't find it easy to be straightforward without being confrontational, which is why I put up with things that I shouldn't. To the people who doubt the authenticity of my post, I wish it was fake. Life would be so much easier if it were. Commenter 1, if they want a family-style stay, they can go dibs on an Airbnb. Commenter 2, tell your parents and their friends you're not running a hotel. There is no way your parents' friends want to sleep on an air mattress. Trust me, after the age of 30, no one wants to sleep on the floor or air mattress. Commenter 3, This does not make any sense to me. Tell them to just stay home and visit another time when they won't be invading your house. And maybe tell them they can't bring strangers into your home. You're an adult. Commenter 4. If they want family style and not poor college students who cram into one hotel room style, send her a link to a few Airbnbs. If they've brought business to your dad's firm, they are sure being cheap in their thank you. It sounds like you don't even have a place for them to sit, let alone sleep. Cheaping out is more offensive than a hotel, etc. Has your mother been to your apartment? I would lie and say that your friend cannot put you up that weekend. Stories number 20. AT for confronting my coworker after doing her a favor that I would not have done if I was given full context. I picked up half of a shift for a coworker on my day off. We don't work every day in my field. She messaged me 2 days prior, asking if I was somehow willing to take the back half of her shift because it was her birthday, and she did not want to work on her birthday. She then said that nobody else she asked said yes, and I was her last resort. I felt bad, and accepted to take the part of the shift so that she could get off halfway through her shift, and at least enjoy some of her birthday, not at work. I offered her alternatives such as using sick time, PTO, getting an attendance point, but she did not want to go that route, so I regretfully accepted. For context, it is a pretty tiring job at times, and as you could probably tell from nobody else saying yes, people including me don't normally want to pick up shifts. Anyways, the day of comes around. I was leaving, and she was supposed to come in and work her front half. She did not show up. I messaged her asking where she was, and she told me she called off the front half using sick time. Here is where the problem is. I would not have taken the back half of her shift if I knew she would not be working the front half. I only accepted so that she could enjoy some of her birthday not at work, not get the entire shift off. If I knew she wasn't working the front half, I would have rejected her request, since she could still have plenty of time to enjoy her birthday and then work the back half herself. I was caught off guard. I felt tricked in a sense, and voiced that to her. She proceeded to say she told me which she did not, and then say that it was none of my business, and she does not see the issue. She also said that I offered to take the shift, which I did not, and that I was still helping her out regardless. And it should not matter whether she was able to get the front half off. I understand what she does outside of work is none of my business, and that technically did not affect the shift I was picking up for her. However, I was doing her a favor. I told her the only reason for me picking up the back half of her shift was so that she would be able to enjoy some time of her birthday not at work, and be able to celebrate it however she chose. Our conversation went in circles, both of us thinking we were in the right, so I ended the conversation as it was going nowhere constructive. I ended up not making a bigger issue of it, and just working the back half of her shift. I've consulted others and most seem to understand where I am coming from. However, there are a few others that see where she is coming from, and that I should not be concerned with the fact she was able to get the front half of her shift, and by extension the whole shift off. I'm over it, to be honest. I decided just to not do her any more favors. What's done is done. However, it seems to have upset her and her roommate, someone I work everyday shift. I am curious about other people's perspective on the matter. Comments. Commenter 1. Here's what I don't understand. If the job isn't so crucial that she can just take sick time off without someone else needing to cover for her, she should have just taken the whole shift off rather than stick you with half of it just so she could save the hours. That's where her being the AH comes in, which means you are NTA. You worked for no good reason since she could have just taken the time off anyway. It was selfish of her and she used you, if she'd been honest from the start, that she intended to take the whole day off regardless of whether or not anyone else would pick up the time. You could have at least made an informed decision, as you say. If you'd known the context, reply yes. I definitely would have liked the info to make an informed decision. Thank you for the input. Commenter 2 NTA. But I wouldn't have picked up the shift in the first place. She knew when her birthday was, and could have requested the whole day off ahead of time without getting you or anyone else involved. If she was someone you were very close with, I could understand wanting to do something nice, but now you know not to do her any more favors. Reply, yeah. In retrospect, I shouldn't have agreed. Thank you for the comment. Commenter 3 NTA. You agreed to take the half shift. You worked it, and you will get paid for it. From that perspective, you weren't really harmed by this coworker. However, she was being intentionally deceptive in convincing you to cover her shift. She had her plan already, which she should have disclosed when you started discussing the alternatives, including sick time. I'm guessing she only had a half day of sick time and no PTO available. You didn't take the shift for the money, you did it as a personal favor. Under false pretenses, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that it wasn't even her birthday. She might have said that just to get your sympathy. In my opinion, there is no point in arguing about it any further, to her or her roommate. Don't bother giving this incident as the reason you won't pick up her shifts in future. Just don't be available. Reply, you hit it right on the nail. She later indulged that she's supposedly only enough sick hours to cover the front half of the shift. Appreciate the input. Commenter 4 NTA on your part, but this is definitely a lesson learned situation. Now you know what type of person she is, and to never help her again. Whether she wants to admit it or not, she was being sneaky and tricked you. Reply agreed, appreciate the input. Stories number 21. Aita for taking my daughter and cutting off my parents without telling them. I, an 18F, decided to bring my almost 5-year-old daughter with me. 5 hours away from my parents? I need to know if I went too far. When I was 12, I was SA'd by a family member who was 17, and I became pregnant. My parents were pro-life and forced me to keep the baby. Even when I begged them not to, I gave birth at 13 and bled a lot. I had a hemorrhage, and they performed a C-section and hysterectomy on me. I had a daughter, and when I was told I would never have kids again, I hated my parents so much for it. They made me suffer over something that was preventable. They decided to lie to neighbors and friends about how the baby was conceived, saying that I was sleeping around. I got bullied in my neighborhood and at school, with kids calling me mommy and making fun of my C-section scar. I lost a lot of friends because of it. There were rumors that I had STDs from sleeping around, and I probably didn't even know who the father was. The father of my daughter, he faced no trouble for the assault. When his family heard about him impregnating me at 12, they moved to a different place and changed everything. I don't care to ever see them again, and I'm glad they left me alone. My parents decided to take care of my daughter and ignored me. The only good thing they gave me was therapy at one point. I used to hate my daughter for causing me this pain, but in therapy, my hatred shifted more towards my parents. They knew that for my height, age, and weight, I could have died giving birth, and they didn't care at all. She was innocent in this, and I didn't want my daughter to be raised by abusive, narcissistic parents. I didn't want them to take away my motherhood. I didn't want her to have generational trauma. So, when I turned 18, I found my aunt on social media, who was estranged from my parents, and she offered for my daughter and me to live with her. I have legal rights over my daughter. My parents didn't have any rights. They were more like caregivers. One night, while my parents were asleep, I was already packed up, along with my daughter. My aunt came and drove us to her place, and she's paying for my college fund too. And I decided to take a gap year to adjust to this new place. My daughter is adjusting well. She said that she misses my parents. I think we'll be fine. She loves my aunt's dogs so much and would cuddle with them. She's going to kindergarten, and pickups are only for me and my aunt. I told one of my friends who was with me through it all, and she told me that it's kind of heartless that I disappeared without even giving my parents a note or something. She told me I could probably cause them an aneurysm because I disappeared like that. Maybe I should have told them. I thought I was doing the right thing by leaving. But my own friend, who was with me through thick and thin, is telling me that I should have given them some type of note. I kind of feel bad. I have always had empathy for people who were horrible to me, except for my abuser, but now I'm scared they might try to find me and take my daughter, or try to turn everyone against me again. I've never parented, so I could be bad at it, but my aunt is helping me. I'm also scared my parents might pass out or something bad if my and my daughter's leaving caused that. Thinking about it is making me more paranoid, so Ada, comments. Commenter 1 NTA. Just think about what your daughter would go through when your parents allow that relative to SA her and get her pregnant so that she can endure everything you went through. That should hopefully dry up any remaining sympathy that you have these absolutely disgusting POS that you are unfortunate enough to be saddled with as parents. You did the right thing by getting your daughter away from them and making a new life for the two of you away from such evil, disgusting scumbags. They deserve nothing from you except total silence and absence. Please do the right thing for your daughter and stay strong. I'm very proud of you for having the strength to rebuild your world after what you have had to endure. Best of good fortune to you and your little girl. Commenter 2, just to add, they might report you missing. You might consider calling the police in your previous location and let them know that you and your daughter are safe and left on purpose. Commenter 3, but do not disclose to them where you are. Commenter 4, NTA. They victim blamed you and did not pursue justice against the man who assaulted you. Your daughter is not safe around them. The safety of you and your child is far more important than the feelings of people who side with rapists. Because by trashing your reputation and not pursuing justice on your behalf, That is what they did. On a side note, depending on where you live, the statute of limitations may not have run out on the rape. In many locations, it is longer for sex crimes against children than those against adults, specifically so that those who were not given justice as children can receive it as adults. Look into your local laws. You may be able to pursue charges against the rapist. Your daughter's DNA holds irrefutable evidence of the crime, and of who committed it. If the statute of limitations has not run out, you could still force this guy to face criminal charges. This article lays out the statutes of limitations in child sex crimes for each U.S. state, if that is the country where you live. Update. Hello, a lot of you asked for an update. I decided to block that friend out of my life. They knew what I went through and chose to worry about my parents instead. That's not happening. I filed a report to confirm that I am safe and my daughter is safe, so they can't file missing reports and waste everyone's time. The thing is, my parents don't know where I am. They could be thinking that I am at a friend's house or a shelter, etc. They were never close to my aunt and don't know where she is at all. My aunt private her social media. She was pro-choice and never agreed with my parents' values. But she decided not to take any action because it didn't affect her life until the pregnancy happened. She ended up getting really upset when I gave birth, and she cut them off and moved away. It's basically been like this for a long time. I'm doing fine, and my daughter sleeps in the same bedroom as me. For people saying that this is fake, you are literally the reason why people are too scared to speak out. My focus is on my daughter now, and if my parents find me, we will get a restraining order against them. I'll update if anything happens, but right now silence is better. Commenter 1. Wish you and your child all the best. Also, your aunt is amazing. Reply. Thank you. Commenter 2. You welcome. Stay safe and remember to document everything. Maybe even record a video of yourself saying what happened. If your parents ever call you, make sure you record them, and also try to get them to confess forcing you to give birth and confirming who abused you. Commenter 3. Since you say you may require a restraining order in the future, you should start making a record. Write down each incident of abuse or problematic behavior, put dates, times, as much detail as you can remember, and any witnesses. Add any future contact from them to this record. Save it in at least 2 different methods such as paper printout and Google Drive. What this does is show that the problem is recurring and serious. Such records can be a massive help in procuring restraining orders against stalkers, harassers, and abusers. Law enforcement and courts are more likely to listen to victims when the victim shows up with a long list of nasty incidents, with plenty of detail and the names of witnesses. Since your aunt cut contact with your parents due to the abuse, incidents that she witnessed would be particularly useful, as she is a reliable witness who won't lie to protect your parents. Commenter 4. This. My daughter waited 5 years before deciding to file for divorce from her POS ex, and for custody of the kids for 5 years. I begged her to write down everything that happened. Keep a log of when he said he wanted to see the kids, and whether or not he showed up or called. She did not, but I did. I took pictures when he broke out her headlights to prevent her from leaving. I took pictures of her car that he drove into the neighbor's garage when he was drunk. I printed off a copy of his 2 DUI court transcripts. I printed off a copy of the court transcript for a DV incident with his latest AP where he was charged, and 2 other ones, when she was charged for DV against him. I printed off the arrest record when him and his GF were arrested for animal cruelty, etc., etc. But believe it or not, this was not enough to convince a judge to grant an RO or PO. 10 years of demonstrating very poor judgment and displaying anger issues was not enough evidence to keep 3 minor children away from him. My faith in the court system is not strong, obviously, but load the deck as best as you can. In your favor, Gold Luck, stories number 22. I had cereal at my wedding to spite my mill. I have wondered if I would ever get the courage to post this story, but after a good nap and hours of watching Charlotte reruns, I've decided it's finally time. Some names and specifics have been changed, because I am not about to start drama in my personal life. This is my first Reddit post, so be kind. Me 29F and my husband Jim 34M have been married for 10 years. We were very young when we met, and didn't date long before we got married. I was 19 and he was 24. We have a 5-year age gap, but I moved through life pretty fast. Graduated high school at 15, working full-time by 16, and honestly it didn't seem that weird to anyone who knew us. Anyways, I first met my MIL Sandy a few weeks into our relationship. Honestly, she seemed disinterested in me or our relationship. Looking back, I'm pretty sure that's because she didn't think our relationship would turn into something serious or long-term. I would come over, and Jim and I would have dinner, or hang out watching TV, but Sandy mostly made herself scarce or would have small chats with us about whatever. I don't remember ever thinking she would be a problem, but then came the engagement. The engagement was very beautiful and well thought out. I was extremely surprised, and both of my parents attended. I asked why his parents hadn't come. He let me know that he had invited them, but they were busy. Immediately after proposing, we called his parents to let them know, and they sounded like he had told them he bought a new pair of shoes or something. It was strange to say the least, but I didn't dwell on it too much. I was just ecstatic to be getting married. About a week or two later, everything completely changed. Once Sandy saw the ring on my finger and had a realization that we would actually get married, I think something inside her broke. Her disinterest in us turned into a complete fixation on sabotaging our relationship. She became my opposition in every way. I wanted a simple centerpiece bouquet of baby's breath and white roses. She demanded silk flowers. My husband suggested Italian food for dinner. She wanted Mexican. We picked a venue on a hill that overlooked the city. She insisted we get married in a garden. Anything and everything we made a decision on, she would argue. She also hated whenever I would show affection to Jim. She would be sure to choose the seat next to him, or walk with her hand on his arm, and it felt like she was competing for attention. My husband was always at my defense, and always trying to reason with Sandy. Honestly, I think this was a side of her even he wasn't familiar with. It got exhausting at one point, I kid you not. Sandy actually called my mother and told her that I was too young, and therefore do not get a say in this wedding. Welp, if my mother taught me anything, it was to be resilient and resourceful, and maybe a little petty. My parents had my back. Prior to my wedding dress appointment, Sandy had made a big point to let everyone know she would be providing the wedding dress as a wedding present. Even walking in, she let me know that she had an envelope of cash with her, and that I could pick anything I wanted in the store. Not to worry about it. We pulled a few pieces off the racks, including one that I had bookmarked on my phone months prior. It was an off-white fitted Oleg Cassini dress, with a high-low hem and a large train down the back. It was a satin finish with small straps to hold it up. It was very Audrey Hepburn inspired. I loved absolutely everything about this dress except for the high-low hem. My mother-in-law, however, seemed to hate everything about this dress, and began to berate every little thing I liked. The satin looks cheap. You look too short. And my favorite insult, Jim would hate that dress. Because she was picking the dress, I felt impelled to get the one she liked, even though everyone in my party could tell I didn't care for it. It was a fitted tulle mermaid dress with a sweetheart neckline. Just like every other wedding dress that year, once the dress she liked was chosen, she handed me the envelope and left the store before everyone else even rose from their seats. When I got up to the register to pay, the envelope held less than $200 cash. It didn't even cover the cost of my headpiece. She had seen every price tag along with us, and knew how much wedding dresses cost. She had picked ones for me to try that were far above that price tag. My group rallied for me and ultimately scrounged up enough money on credit cards to pay for the dress. This is when I decided I was done being nice. Several months later, when the dress came into the shop, I went to pick it up. I took just my mom. I asked if the dress could be returned, and they told me since it hadn't left the shop or been altered, I could exchange it for another dress of equal or higher value. Game on. My mom and I went back to the Oleg Cassini dress I had fallen in love with. And guess what? They had it in a full-length form. I tried it on, and instantly knew I could not leave without it. I exchanged the dresses. Not only that, but because the Oleg Cassini dress was so much cheaper than my original dress, I also was able to get the full corset bra, full alterations, and upgrade my veil to a longer, hand-beaded one. We did not tell my mother-in-law anything about it. There were other instances that happened after that, but I always stood my ground. Once my dad and I were talking in a group consisting of my in-laws about how guests need something to eat prior to the dinner, but after the ceremony, a cocktail hour, and my dad made the joke that, sometimes you just really want a bowl of cereal or something. I said that we should have a cereal bar like they have for continental breakfast at a hotel. Sandy said, "You will not have a cereal bar, absolutely not." I forbid it. Guess who had a cereal bar? We did. The guests understood the assignment too, and they went ham. We had all the fancy dispensers and all the different kinds of milk, almond, whole, 2%, oat. We had gluten-free options and low-sugar options. It started as a joke, but I regret nothing. I made sure the photographer got lots of pictures of our guests eating cereal. Anyways, fast forward to our wedding, and Sandy is busy getting ready at a nearby salon. So she didn't have a clue what was going on, being set up. Which proved to be awesome because she couldn't fight anyone on anything. I didn't actually see her until she walked down the aisle before me. It surprised me zero that she was wearing a full-length, silver, fully sequined mermaid-style gown with a sweetheart neckline. The same style I had purchased. Her hair was pulled into a beehive, and she had full glam makeup. She stood out like a sore thumb. Silver wasn't even one of our wedding colors. It didn't match the style at all. It was more of a Mother of Daisy Buchanan dress. She was so focused on herself that she actually never realized I switched the dresses. Even to this day, it has never come up. I still laugh when I think about it. We've been married now for just over 10 years, and he is still the love of my life. The first few years of our marriage were very, very challenging with learning how to handle interactions with her. To this day, she doesn't understand why we aren't a close bonded family. But I also have been through enough therapy to know there are a lot of mental health issues to unpack there. Jim and I set boundaries and have enforced them through the years. I can honestly say we live a pretty calm life now, like I had imagined all those years ago. Stories number 23. Boss wants everyone in office to submit an updated medical history to him. So first of all, a bit misleading title as the person in this situation is not me but my friend. Second, this is going to be fairly long and perhaps unnecessary context heavy. It's not an urgent request for answers, and I hope this will be more interesting than boring even if it is long-winded. I will include a TLDR at the bottom. To get to the main issue, though, one of my friend's co-workers passed away while at work last month. It was apparently a massive heart attack. He was under 50, so it shocked everyone. More so that it happened literally at his desk in the middle of a shared open plan office. While at the wake, my friends and the deceased's direct boss was talking to some family members, and he informally learned that the worker who died had some existing high blood pressure, other health problems that he had been neglecting to treat. Relatives apparently think he would not have died had he been more vigilant with his health. A moot point and certainly none of his boss or co-workers' business. Boss has taken this situation pretty hard. I gather he was extremely freaked out on the day of the incident, and the information that the worker had a pre-existing medical condition that could have potentially predicted what would happen seems to have sparked an idea in his head. On Friday, he announced to the office as a whole all 20-ish of his direct reports, part of a larger company of 250-300 people that he is giving them until May 1st, specifically after tax season, because he thinks he is being nice and unnecessarily accommodating of people's time to provide him personally, not HR, not higher execs. Just him an updated copy of your full medical history. According to him, this means a visit with a PCP GP no less than 6 months prior to the due date and fully accounting by the doctor for all at-risk health factors and a full further accounting of all risk factors in your full medical history. These are direct quotes. He gave everyone a memo. The wording in the memo is pretty basic directions in poorly thought-out legalese, some of it almost stream of consciousness and style. He is in the habit of dictating to his assistant, and gets pretty uptight about her recording exactly what he said, and not rewording things to make more sense when he is vague or grammatically confusing. Even with his important correspondence, he is claiming this policy will allow him to prevent further trauma-inducing incidents, like a coworker dying very suddenly at his desk a few feet away from you, and honestly seems to be of the opinion that this will protect the company from legal harassment in case anyone wants to sue for the trauma of witnessing a death in the workplace. I guess the idea is that if he knows a coworker is likely to die suddenly, he can fire them first to prevent anything falling back on him, the company. It doesn't seem to make much sense on the surface, and I can't guess if this is truly his real motivation. Also, as if a medical history works in a way as to accurately predict sudden deaths of that type, he is clearly not rational on this plan. Honestly, to me, it sounds like he was freaked out by witnessing the incident himself. And when the thought crossed his mind to sue the company for his own trauma, it eventually turned into an idea to play it as if he is a good policymaker trying to protect the company from legal trouble from people like himself. Apparently, he's been angling for a promotion for years, and has in the past already come up with some pretty harebrained schemes to suck up to his own bosses. Anyway, my friend is pretty level-headed, and her immediate instinct is to go to HR on Monday and let them know what's going on. But the way she presented the story to me gave me pause. She described it casually, over drinks last night, in a manner like, "Listen to this completely illegal thing my boss is trying to do. It does seem to me like he's crossing some dubious legal lines, but I've been lurking here long enough to see a lot of people come in with workplace issues they are sure are 100% against the law. And it often turns out the answer to, can they do this, is yup, totally. I think the question of, is this stupid for my boss to do, and should I bring it to HR higher-ups, is a pretty clear yes, since it doesn't have to be illegal for HR to have other reasons to want to shut this down immediately. Still, I'm curious on the actual legality of what this blowhard is planning. I could speculate that at the very least it seems like it could easily run afoul of the ADA. Thanks in advance for any input, TL. Dr. Boss wants all 20 of his direct reports to hand in their full medial history to him personally, so he can make sure to fire them if they are likely to have a heart attack and die on the job, before they can traumatize their coworkers. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. The EEOC has a good FAQ on medical-related inquiries in the workplace. I would suggest your friend read this and then go to HR. Reply, "Oh, thank you. This looks very helpful. What stands out to me immediately is this part. Disability-related inquiries and medical examinations of employees must be job-related and consistent with business necessity." Do you think he could argue that it's a business necessity to not, say, disrupt the office with a supposedly predictable, traumatizing death? Or is that too much on the side of opinion to count, legally? Commenter 2. In my opinion, that is far too general to meet the job-related and consistent with business necessity prong. Look at it this way. You need to be alive to do any job on Earth. Per the EEOC, an employer's reasonable belief that an employee's ability to perform essential job functions will be impaired by a medical condition, or that he will pose a direct threat due to a medical condition, must be based on objective evidence obtained or reasonably available to the employer prior to making a disability-related inquiry or requiring a medical examination. Such a belief requires an assessment of the employee and his position and cannot be based on general assumptions. Commenter 3. Is it just me? Or does this sound like a lost episode of The Office? Reply, thanks. Now I'm imagining Michael Scott trying to get away with this and having an epic fight with Toby over it. In all seriousness, though, Michael falls more on the incompetent but well-meaning side of the scale than this guy. My friend has been regaling me with awful stories since she started working there a couple of years ago, and he is far more malicious with his dumb ideas than Michael, or even the UK version's David Brent. Although imagining an employer thinking they could get away with this in the UK is perhaps even more hilarious. Commenter 4 Can you imagine Michael Scott's reaction if one of his employees died of a heart attack? It's actually pretty sad. I can just picture him sitting alone in his office overlooking the parking lot, just weeping. Commenter 5 Stanley. Barack is president. Barack is president. Stanley update. Just got off the phone with my friend a few minutes ago, and his official boss is now ex-boss. My friend did in fact go to HR as she was planning and lay out the situation for them. They seemed concerned and assured her they would look into it, and then she heard no more of it for about a week. Ex-boss was also suspiciously quiet about the policy during that time period until, last Monday, he was not in the office. There was no explanation given to the office at large, but my friend spoke to his assistant, and from the information she got from her pieced together that he was in some long, important meetings with corporate HR, and that he would then be taking the rest of the week on personal leave. Well, the weekend passed and he didn't return. The office was in limbo for the beginning of this week, but today, someone came down from corporate and announced that ex-boss was officially no longer working for the company and that new corporate guy would be serving as their temporary supervisor until a new one was hired. Obviously, everything largely went on behind the scenes. But since my friend was the one to blow the whistle to her friend in HR, yes, I did see the comments on the previous thread about how HR is never your friend. Lol, she managed to get a couple details at lunch, Ray, the way it all went down. Apparently, corporate was initially quickly and heavily concerned about ex-boss's scheming, because he does have a history of dumb ideas that blew up in his or someone else's face. He had in the past always managed to take the heat off himself by throwing someone else under the bus. When local HR came to him to tell him that this new policy was officially bugfuck, stupid, and would cause him and the company far more liability than he could possibly save them from, he threw a temper tantrum and insisted that the higher execs would understand what a good idea it was. The meetings with corporate were initially them trying to talk him down and explain why he was wrong. He resisted this strongly and turned them into seminars on why he was actually right. Eventually a VP got involved and it was over. Ex-boss was not technically fired, but he was strongly encouraged to submit his resignation, and he will not be getting any reference other than a confirmation that he did in fact work there. My friend hasn't personally heard anything from the guy since he suddenly disappeared from the office. If he's contacted any of her coworkers, they didn't share it with her. She's pretty excited to see the last of him, and is hoping her new boss will be less of a moron. Apparently one of her longtime coworkers that has always been a bit of a mentor figure to her is being considered for a promotion internally instead of them hiring someone new as supervisor. So my friend might even materially benefit from this fiasco again. My thanks to everyone who provided me with info and advice, and also to those who were just supportive. I did drop off commenting after a few hours because I do browse Reddit most of my workday. And I am paranoid about accidentally commenting with my main when I mean to use my throwaway and vice versa. So I just stayed logged out of this account. Sorry for the lack of real-time clarification, but hopefully this update makes up for it. Stories number 24, Aita for expecting my sister to finally pay me back for her wedding 5 years later. I 32F am still so frustrated over this. And honestly, I need some outside perspective. 5 years ago, my sister 30F got married and was struggling financially at the time. I stepped in to help and ended up covering a big chunk of her wedding costs. The venue deposit, catering, and decorations. We agreed she'd pay me back once she got on her feet, and I trusted her, but every time I brought it up over the years, she'd brush it off with things like, "Don't worry about it," or, "You were such a big help. Just think of it as my gift from you." I didn't want to start family drama, so I let it slide, but it's always bothered me. Fast forward to last week, she calls asking if I can help her with a down payment for a new house. The amount she needs? Pretty much the same as what she still owes me. I told her I'd be willing to help, but only after she pays me back for the wedding first. She got defensive immediately, saying it's been so long and that I'm being unfair for holding it over her head. She insists she thought I had just gifted her the money, now she's not speaking to me, and even my parents are trying to convince me to let it go for the sake of peace. But it feels like she's been taking advantage of my kindness for years, and I'm tired of pretending it's fine. So Aida for expecting her to pay me back after all this time? Or is she just avoiding accountability? Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. If she can't afford the down payment, she can't afford the house. How will she pay for insurance, amongst other home costs? Will she expect you to pay for those as well? Next time you loan money you want back, write up a contract with terms. Or if it's a large enough sum, small claims court. Commenter 2, better advice is don't loan money to family and friends. Gift them money with the hope they pay you back. Court is messy, and you don't want to go through that with family and friends. It's better just to say no. Commenter 3, yeah. That's honestly the best mindset. Keeps expectations realistic and saves a lot of resentment down the line. Commenter 4, NTA. She couldn't afford the wedding and she can't afford the house? It clearly wasn't a gift by virtue of the fact you kept bringing it up. She just thought if she wears you down, you'd give up. At least you won't lend her any money again. I'd also stop buying her birthday and Christmas presents and take it off the top of what she owes. Painstakingly, reply. I'll think about this idea. Commenter 5. I loaned my brother money to buy a trailer. Years later, due to divorce, I was living with my parents and 3 kids, using food stamps and welfare to get on my feet again. I asked him if he could pay me back. He looked at me as if I was a POS and said, "No way. I don't have that kind of money." Whether he did or didn't, it was his attitude that cut deep. I think I've spoken to him 3 times since then. 130 years ago, reply. They say it's people that makes others bad, after loaning him some money when he needed it. He's now acting like you're some burden on his shoulders. Update, wow. I didn't expect my post to get as much attention as it did. Thank you to everyone who commented. I read through hundreds of them, and honestly, it gave me the clarity and backbone I really needed. So, here's what happened after I posted a few days later. My sister texted me out of the blue with this passive-aggressive message saying, "I hope you're happy. Mom's upset because we're fighting again. Money shouldn't come between family." I replied calmly, that money isn't what's between us. It's her lack of honesty and accountability. She didn't like that. That night, she called me and launched into this emotional guilt trip about how hard things have been for her, how she and her husband are trying their best, and how it's just money. I told her point blank, it's not just money, it's about respect. You promised to pay me back, and you never did. Then I said something I'd been holding in for years. You only remember I exist when you need something. There was a long silence. Then she hung up, cue my parents stepping in. My mom called, saying I'm creating division and that family doesn't keep score. My dad was more neutral, but admitted that my sister does have a history of forgetting her debts. Apparently, she's borrowed from him too. Here's where things really turned. My brother-in-law actually reached out to me privately. He apologized. Said he didn't realize I'd paid for so much of the wedding, and that my sister had downplayed it as a small loan. He told me he'd talk to her about making things right. 2 days later, I got a transfer for exactly half the amount she owes me with a message. It's not the full repayment, but it's progress. The real kicker? My sister then posted this cryptic story on Facebook. So yeah, she's still being petty. But I honestly don't even care anymore. I finally stood up for myself, and that feels better than the money ever could. Verdict from me: I'm not the asshole. I was just tired of being the family ATM with a smile. If this whole thing taught me anything, it's that boundaries don't make you cold. They protect you from being taken advantage of. Commenter 2, wow. That her husband had no idea that you'd paid for as much of the wedding as you had. And funny that she suddenly had the dollar to pay you back. So you go, girl, and hold the line on not giving her money ever again. And lastly, screw your mom for continuing to take the side of the obvious golden child. We are all proud of you for standing your ground. Commenter 2, exactly the second the husband found out. The "we're struggling" story disappeared real quick. Classic golden child behavior. Glad OP finally stopped playing the family ATM. Commenter 3, classic "we're struggling" is relative. Sister is struggling to live for her current lifestyle and pay her debt to her sister. Not struggling to live her current lifestyle. She's making choices, and I'm here for her husband doing the right thing. Stories number 25. My company has had the same job ads up for months. I asked HR why, and their answer was honestly very surprising. For context, I work at a medium-sized marketing agency. In my department, we've had 4 open positions for about a year now. Even though we don't really need new people that badly, we are growing, yes. But these specific jobs aren't a priority right now. The situation made me curious, so I finally went and asked our HR manager, what's the point of keeping job ads up when we're not actively hiring for them? What she told me was simply that these are evergreen job ads, and the goal is to be prepared for natural employee turnover. She said that every year they expect about 10 to 20% of the staff to leave. It's not a flaw in the company. It's just the reality of the market right now. By having these ads up continuously, they have a pipeline of potential candidates they can turn to as soon as someone resigns. The second big reason was talent acquisition, she told me. If a really great rockstar candidate's CV comes across our desk, we can hire them immediately without the usual delay, even if we don't have a specific spot for them at that exact moment. I'm not sure if this is the system in all companies, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense. It reduces the hiring time to find a replacement for an employee who has left from a few months to just a few weeks. Edit, you're right. Scale what's happening to multiple postings from multiple companies. They're just making their lives easier at the cost of making hundreds to thousands of other people's lives more difficult. Just another way that a poorly run business's pain is dealt with by a different part of that business, only to get passed on to society to deal with. A cortisol forwarding system, so to speak. I hadn't seen the subject from this perspective before, and I see it now as completely unfair to some people. On the contrary, for those working in the same company, the matter poses a threat and is a selfish exploitation of job seekers. Opinions differed on the subject because they could do it in a better way, or clarify that whoever wants to apply could be put on a waiting list. For example, commenter 1, this is evil, selfish shit. When is the last time a rock star got hired? The idea that these people are just out there waiting to waste their time by applying cold is a myth. Those candidates are in high demand and find opportunities through their network, not by joining a queue for some AI program to determine if they're qualified enough for an interview or not. Job postings are not to create a pipeline of candidates. They are to fill a position. Recruiting this way literally benefits no one. The agency wastes tons of time and resources interviewing, and screening candidates is a ton of work, and candidates are subjected to the enormously painful process of interviewing for a job that there is ultimately no need for. This agency is part of the problem in hiring these days. Commenter 2, here's what you do. You call and ask whether they will shut her down. If they are willing to have your back and help you out regardless of their official policy about this, then you actually ask to schedule a half-hour for SIL straight after your appointment. Then you go to your SIL and say you love the idea and called ahead to set up the joint dress appointment, realizing they might need an extra staff person, and that they told you it is actually not allowed. So then you tell her you asked about the 30 mins after your appointment, and were able to reserve it, and you're excited to share the day looking at dresses for each of you. This avoids any chance of any of these women getting upset at you for not wanting to share. You'll end up looking like you support the idea 100% but won't have to share it all. Commenter 3, I work for a large company, and they know their natural attrition rate, and they track the trend over time. Sometimes they manage it upwards or downwards to keep it inside a certain range, i.e., if attrition is too low, they will limit raises, bonuses, etc. To encourage additional attrition. If it's too high, they will adjust in the other direction. Is that unusual? I guess I just assume that's the way all big companies did it. Unfortunately, this generally encourages the wrong type of attrition. That of your best employees leaving when attrition is too low because raises and bonuses dry up. I've certainly worked places with almost zero attrition, and that can be problematic if you aren't growing, because things tend to stagnate. This was the worst example in my career of, we've always done it this way. Except the way was bad and wrong and needed to be changed. That being said, evergreen jobs, like in this example, sounds way too much like ghost jobs. I know some of our teams that are growing like to maintain a candidate pool, but that's mostly other internal staff that they think they could promote into a position or type of position. Seems pretty shady to have posted jobs with no really job to associate to them. Commenter 4, I own a small company that has around 20 employees currently. We don't post job listings unless we're actually looking to fill a position, but we usually get a lot of applicants every time we do hire someone. I don't schedule an interview unless I think it's a good fit, but I do keep the applications for people with experience on file for future use if another position opens up. We have a good reputation in town, so we usually get a decent amount of experienced applicants from other local companies in the same industry. I've called people a year after they've applied to see if they're still interested, and have been lucky enough that I'll continue the practice. Sometimes that saves me from having to post a new job listing at all. I hate posting a listing for a specialized job that requires months of training when 80% of the people applying have no experience, so I use those previous applications to try to find someone that won't require as much training. We don't really have any turnover, so we're usually only hiring when we're expanding, so it's worked well for me. We pay very well and treat our employees well, so nobody ever really quits. The last person that I had quit was over 2 years ago, and it was because he needed to move out of state to take care of an ailing family member. Stories number 26, I-27. I'm being asked to use my personal computer and download a tracker for work. As the post says, I am a 27-year-old family nurse practitioner in Virginia. I work in private practice, think family doctor, and my company from the beginning has required me to use my own personal computer. When I was hired, I wasn't told about that. But instead, on the first day, they told me to bring it and use it daily as it needs to go in with me to see the patients. I think this is crazy for a variety of reasons. Lots of wear tear that I'm not compensated with, bring back forth, risk of losing it or it being stolen, patients' records on my personal computer, sick people getting germs on my computer, and on and on. I have been at this position for 5 months, and so far the mousepad has stopped working, because my hands are always wet with hand sanitizer. So then I had to buy a wireless mouse. I have a nice computer, and I hate that it's being destroyed like this. Today I have strep. Strep as an adult is terrible. I told my boss I could either stay home and work at home clearing lab results. Iki. That night on the phone she said yes, please work from home. First thing this morning they wanted me to install a timer to my personal computer that allows the practice to see how much time is being spent in each chart. For billing purposes they say it is a Google Chrome timer extension. I told them that I would be more than happy to use that on a work computer. We have a few desktops, but I was not comfortable downloading a timer on my home computer. She said okay, but was clearly mad. Then 5 minutes later had her assistant call me and tell me to stop working for the day since I wouldn't install the timer, and that I was now only allowed to use a desktop at work. This is on top of the fact that I have to clock in, clock out on an app on my phone that tracks my GPS. Yes, I have a master's degree and have to clock in, out, even for lunch. During the entire time it is on, GPS is tracked. So listen, I know I need a new job, but is this legal? How do I approach this? I am now going to have to use sick vacation time that I wasn't planning on using. I think I should be paid for my time today. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. As a side note, I would be extremely worried about the liability of having patient information on your personal laptop. This alone would give me pause. Reply, I know. I go to great lengths to keep my laptop safe related to it having patient information on it. They do require me to send emails with patient information via Gmail, and they keep a ton of patient info on Google Drive, so I feel like my computer is the least of the worries. Commenter 2. Former HIPAA security officer here to warn you that HIPAA is not only the responsibility of the practice, but also your responsibility. Not only are you responsible, but you personally can be fined for violations. The fines can be quite severe, so please take this into consideration. Commenter 3, sorry, but do you know if they've done this? Do they have you using your personal Gmail account? Or do they have business accounts set up for everyone to use? If they're using your personal account for stuff, holy fucking shit. Reply. They had me make a Gmail account that I use just for work. Commenter 4, just a regular old, run-of-the-mill, brand new, standard user account? Commenter 5, yeah. If you're trying to stop the hippo from running, I think you just did the opposite of that. Reply, I reviewed that link, that's not what we are using. It is just regular Gmail and regular Google Drive. Commenter 6, so basically this just turned into one of those situations where someone in management who wanted to save a few $100s potentially cost their practice a couple $100,000. Commenter 7, I work in private practice, think family doctor, and my company from the beginning has required me to use my own personal computer. When I was hired, I wasn't told about that. But instead, on the first day, they told me to bring it and use it daily as it needs to go in with me to see the patients. Hi, I'm Harry the Hippo, and I have an important announcement. But instead of an announcement, it's just going to be me screaming in horror. Running through the wall and off into the horizon, crash AA, where do you live? Reply, yes. I wholeheartedly agree. I will say, I have never worked for a company that was so causal about breaking HIPAA rules, regulations. I am in Virginia. Update. Shitty employers get a nice surprise after I leave. Okay, so I worked for a small family doctor's office. My first job out of school, I always wanted to do right by my patients. All these employers wanted to do was make money. No concern for employees who dropped like flies and patients who were constantly mad. Instead of actually caring about the patient's concerns, they spent more time micromanaging staff. To the point where they even put timers on our computers and a GPS app on our phones that functioned as a punch clock. They even had managers monitor security cameras to make sure everyone was slaving away. None of us had workspaces, and doing simple things like taking break or listening to music were not allowed. Clearly, if we had time to be human, we couldn't possibly be working hard enough. The owners would never spend money. They didn't buy paper towels. Our bathrooms did not have soap. We didn't have water or even cups. There was no coffee or break room. People ate lunch in their cars alone because there was no space or utensils. We also had to pay for our own training, because they would offer to cover it, and then make getting reimbursed really hard. But that is just the beginning. They also cut corners when it came to patient safety and privacy. They were too cheap to buy masks for providers for when patients came in with diseases like tuberculosis. When I asked about this, they told me I was being a baby. Lastly, they required providers to use personal computers for tasks involving patient data. A major HIPAA violation. Once again, they told me I was wrong when I brought it up. BTW, these are the same personal computers that they put timers on. Now for the fun part. One of the owner's favorite employees was pregnant. The owners wanted to have a party for her but spend no money. How would they do it? Well, they knew I had a good relationship with pharmaceutical reps. It just so happened that I had one coming on that Monday. The baby shower was scheduled for Friday. Now the pharmaceutical reps usually brought lunch for everyone and taught about the newest drug. They also brought samples and coupons for the patients. So cheap owners had a grand plan. Move the baby shower to Monday so that the pharmaceutical rep brings lunch for everyone and they won't have to buy it. They even told me to switch the order from my usual Chick-fil-A to some fancy vegetarian restaurant because they were vegetarian. I ended up quitting one day before. The drug rep called my cell phone and asked about the lunch. He knew it was a baby shower and thought it was weird. I agreed and canceled the lunch. Did not tell the owners. I wish I could see their faces when the free food wasn't showing up. A day or two after I left, 2 other employees quit and more will soon follow. I also reported them to the Board of Health and HIPAA. Their day will come soon. Stories number 27. Don't recognize my work? Have fun having no cake decorator during graduation season. I've been an assistant deli bakery manager for bloody 6 years. In those years we had Jill take over the previous manager's position through backstabbery and lies, a position that was supposed to go to me, but she had a friend in upper management get her transferred over. Jill never did any of the work, left things for me to do last minute, took 4-day weekends, intentionally missed orders to try and make me look bad. The whole 9 yards. I put up with it for years. Every time I brought it up with the management, they gave an excuse or sorta just brushed me off. The company has a union, so getting someone with even a year of seniority over you in trouble is almost impossible. I was doing more and more of the work, making sure orders went off on time, fixing ones she would forget or mess up, covering shifts, calling people to come in if she intentionally underscheduled us, training, and the headache. During this time, I got married, which she tried to deny me my vacation time to do, and had a hectic schedule that my husband graciously understood. Dealt with it for another few years and just got so tired with everything. Then the kicker came. I got pregnant with our first. I decided then and there that once I left for maternity, I wasn't going back. I did everything by the books, notified management and the union, scheduled doctor's visits and worked around my schedule, made sure that there was no possible way she could mess with me. Once I heard the due date, I grinned a maniacal smile deep in my soul. April, right before the busiest time for any deli, bakery, graduation, when you're in a town with 3+ colleges and 4 high schools just in a 10-mile radius. You get a lot of orders to fill. I even had a reputation for color matching certain school colors and doing cakes last minute. On any given day for those months, they could have anywhere from 15 to 150 cakes going out in a weekend Friday, Sunday. And to make matters worse for them, I was the only cake decorator. I let them know that they had to get someone in and hired for me to train multiple times, or else they would be in dire straits, especially since Jill didn't like decorating. They never listened, like always. So after 4 months, I stopped reminding them. I let it go, and it felt great. Then I decided to use one of my vacations during the week before delivery. Good thing I did. The baby was ready anyways, and they still hadn't found a cake decorator. The day I delivered my baby, guess who finally got demoted? Jill had scheduled one of her 4-day weekends again. Missed 3 supply orders, didn't cover my shift, and the icing on the cake? Left 19 cake orders unfulfilled for a Friday, and did not let management know about them. When Friday morning came around and she wasn't there was a line of angry customers wondering where their cakes were. Upper store management was called in. People from 2 different departments who had some experience on cakes were pulling pre-made 1-4 sheets and randomly throwing sprinkled this way and that and giving out the cakes for free. Over $1,000 in products having to be given to customers. For free. Apparently this also happened on a day the district manager was set to come in and do a tour to make sure things were set up for graduation. Needless to say, she was demoted and moved from the department. The very day she came back into the store, she turned off her phone over the weekend, so no one would disturb her. I only know this because they called me to see if I could come back for a day or 2 from my vacation to fix everything. They hadn't known I had the baby yet, just thought I was still heavily pregnant. I've now been 6 months as a STHM and cannot be happier without all of the stress from there. They still ask if I want my old job back when I grocery shop there, but I just smile and tell them no thank you. Although I do miss some of my coworkers now, I get to raise an amazing little boy and bake cakes for the fun of it now. Update. Wow, I was not expecting any of this really. Thank you for the validation. Here's a few things to clear some things up for everyone. Jill got demoted. She is now a produce clerk and is not allowed anywhere near the bakery deli and took a massive pay cut. It did not cripple the whole store. It just made a department almost a living nightmare for management for the weekend. They now have their retired cake decorator in on weekends to do cakes until they can find someone. Else I had to take that unplanned vacation 2 weeks before my due date due to stress from the job that contributed to gestational hypertension. Baby came out alert and happy. Heart rate got to 164/98 though. Do I in no way, shape, or form blame the union or upper management for any of it? When 2 people are constantly issuing complaints to HR, the truth gets muddied. It did not help that the store went through 6 store managers while I was there, and the union did what they could, especially when it came to her trying to mess with my vacations. Paid holidays and days off, especially my wedding doormat? No, I called her out on things all the time, which is why she was out to get me at any chance. I even had my staff stand up for me when I wasn't there, and she's tried to take credit for things I did. Paper trails were made, and I followed procedures for reporting things to the letter. Did I intentionally leave innocent bystanders to have no cake? No. I warned management. They dragged their feet. I warned my customers. They chose to still go there. I did more than my fair share. Thank you all very much. Update 2. This is still going. Thanks for all the upvotes. And here's a little more. I don't plan on opening a bakery anytime soon. There are 5 currently in my little town. Baby is amazing and healthy. He's topping the charts in the 99th percentile all over. I wish this story was made up, but it's not. I've left out numerous things on what she did that could have gotten her fired, demoted sooner if she didn't have someone backing her as long as she did. She got multiple warnings, but by the time she would do another mistake, a new manager would come in, which made it last way longer than it should have. My writing style? It's all my own, so sorry if it is difficult to read. English is my first language and only, but everyone knows that the language is 5 multiple different languages in a trench coat pretending to be one. One of the co-workers I had, who is set to retire next year, sent me messages about everything as it went down, realizing that the shared nightmare was finally coming to an end. Stories number 28. Delivery guy used anti-LGBT slur towards me. Now he gets to enjoy wasting time, money, and standing in the rain. I am a bit gender non-conforming, meaning that I sometimes dress outside my birth gender, and while I think it is obvious to people which gender I was born into, and what I am trying to dress as, I don't dress in an offensive way, meaning I shouldn't come off as eye bleach either, even if it is not your thing. I don't want to stuff things down people's throats, and mostly expect the same treatment as I give others. If you don't have anything nice to say about someone, don't say anything at all. The story. A few months back I was receiving a package from a delivery guy, and I was doing my thing, but decided to take the package anyways. It's a 2-second interaction. Who cares? Delivery people must see everything, all the time. But during those 2 seconds of interaction, however, the delivery guy saw me, turned, and clearly, but with low voice, spoke a slur against LGBT people. My first idea was to report him, but then again, what can I even prove? And what if he comes back, petty revenge? So instead, I realized that this particular delivery company uses a lot of the same drivers for the same area. They also happen to disclose the first name plus initials of the driver before they arrive. I also know they are paid per successful delivery and not for delivery attempts. So now every time this guy shows up with a package, I happen to not be home. When it happens to rain, I happen to be on the balcony. I am on the 5th floor looking down. Next time I might bring a margarita. He has to stand for several minutes because procedure dictates he has to try the doorbell twice. And he then has to try calling twice until voicemail. So naturally, I have extended the calling time before voicemail kicks in as well. Also, I am in Northern Europe. Rain here can get very cold sometimes. As for not getting my things, my patience is directly proportional to his annoyance of wasting time. Also, the company always do a reattempt the next day, and it happens so far to never be the same person 2 days in a row. Because it seems to really trigger someone. Correction. It is my clear understanding that the delivery people are independent courier drivers, who get paid for delivery only, not attempts. But no, I can't, and I won't try and prove it. Edit 2. I was wrong about the drivers not getting paid for unsuccessful delivery. Stories number 29. Husband is seriously considering taking job 4.5 hours from home. My husband 37M has been given an opportunity at work to travel out of state for a job that will be 12 to 18-month duration. We have 2 children in elementary school. I 33F am currently a stay-at-home mom, part-time online student finishing an associate's degree. Money is tight. We barely make ends meet but still manage to live a decent life. Kids are happy, want for almost nothing. But behind the scenes we sacrifice many things. Extended family has a lot to do with helping provide our children with some of the luxuries they get to experience. Up until today, I had been planning to get back to work on a part-time basis while kids are in school. Husband has been at his job for over 5 years. He loved it at first when he was on-site working, but has been mostly in an office setting for the past few years. It's been great for his work-life balance, but detrimental to his outlook regarding the future. He was very recently presented with an opportunity to get back into the field. He immediately texted me to call him, and he dropped a bomb. There is an out-of-state gig that his boss wants him for. It's exactly what my husband wants to do when at work. It comes with financial benefits that would really help us. Details aren't exactly clear yet, but sound promising. I immediately told him I would never say no to the opportunity if it is what he wants, because I could tell he is excited about the prospect. He is a vital part to our family dynamic. Bedtime, bath time, weekend mornings. He does a lot for our kids. He is the fun one. The kids love him so much, and I truly appreciate him for taking the lead when I left my career to stay home with our kids. I'm the former breadwinner workaholic. Our marriage is good. We occasionally have explosive fights, but he has always been steady with me and our relationship. Been together for 15+ years. Intimacy is pretty solid. I'm not necessarily worried about him straying from me despite my insecure tendencies. I'm paranoid due to my pastor. Current understanding is that he will be home for most weekends, 1-hour flight, 5-hour drive, and will maintain daily communication with kids and me. This is something I worry about. He is pretty simple in his social needs. His love language is physical touch, which he won't be getting much of from me with a super limited amount of time to spend as a family. I don't think he will necessarily stray from our marriage or family, but I do see him finding a new groove in being on his own. I guess what I'm asking advice for is, am I crazy to let him sacrifice our family dynamic for money? Does anyone have a similar experience that can tell me how to make this work? How do you maintain an intimate relationship when you're spending so much time apart? There is so much more I have to explain, but I think any advice is a good starting point as this is a wildly new option to wrap my head around. Edit. Thanks for all the advice. Much of it has been helpful, especially hearing some of the stories based off experience. My initial thoughts were right. Husband is excited about the opportunity, and if the financial part makes sense, he thinks he should take it. The loss of time with kids and me is heavy on his mind, but he views this as a potential major help to our future. He will be addressing the potential compensation. Money changes next week with his boss. What we know is on the table: per diem, gas mileage likely only from new housing to work site, permanent hourly pay increase, overtime, potential, and reduced hours Thursday to be back at home office 25 minutes from current home on Fridays, hoping for some kind of stipend set up for moving if he takes the job. Number crunching and budgeting to come after the offer is completely laid out. Husband says he wants to be home every weekend, and flights are under $300 round trip. But we would be mostly planning for him to drive home, or we meet up somewhere in the middle. Air travel is a special occasion emergency option that we will consider. We agree that if it's not going to be setting us up long-term, that the job is not worth it. A lot of people have brought up moving with him. This is something I immediately considered when he told me about this. The job definitely has an end date, but the future is another thing we need to figure out. Other opportunities in the field mean more time away from home, but he thinks he will get a project manager position from this, and take the smaller local jobs once this one wraps up again, something to discuss with his boss. I'm not opposed to moving with him, and we would definitely spend the summer with him, and make the trip to him when school breaks allow. But we need to figure out if an apartment away from home and all the bills that come with it is even feasible for him to maintain. Renting our house out is an option I would look into if the next conversation leads to actually planning the changes. Uprooting our lives could be an adventure, but selling our home is financially irresponsible. Our low interest rate on the mortgage has a lot to do with my reasoning. If we were to rent or buy, our costs would go up drastically. Seems safer, at least for now, to keep our home and keep the kids here until we have a better idea of what new life would be like. The topic of me getting off my ass and getting a job. Yes, this is something we have been planning. When I said up until today, I just meant that was the plan of next steps in my mind until this new opportunity took priority. Not that it's off the table. I want to go back to work. We've looked at entry-level positions and calculated what my earnings would be. If I would be making anywhere close to what he would be contributing, then I wouldn't want him to take the job, and he agrees. Kids have been in school for 2 months. I now have 6.5 hours of time MF. That's when I plan to work. I have 2 semesters left of school, which is free for me thanks to scholarships and grants. We don't have reliable childcare aside from maybe a weekend overnight at a grandparent's house every couple months. Me working to pay for childcare seems redundant, and something we agree we want to avoid if possible. If the benefits of this new job allow for him to live rent, utilities, food, and still send a chunk of money home for savings, then it's something we see as a realistic option. We may realize in the next week that this is something that won't put us ahead enough to be worth it, especially regarding time lost with the kids for him. But my primary reason for posting was to gain insight on if it was something we should even consider. My main takeaway so far was what I had already considered. Money, future career, losing quality time, relationships changing. Oh, also people argue. Explosive fight was meant to insinuate that we shout sometimes. Is it ideal? No. Is it realistic? For us, yes. Is it something we've been working on? Mostly, heat of the moment is sometimes a little messy, and we have regrets on how we handle major disagreements. But we circle back and try to make healthy changes to prevent reoccurrence. Stories number 30. Is it that weird for a dad to bathe their adult daughter in certain situations? Earlier this month, I suffered from a terrible sickness that I won't go through the uncomfortable details, but it made me have bad muscle stiffness, pain, and fatigue. My mother was away to visit my grandmother for the weekend during that time, so I couldn't really ask her. I was basically bedrotting and couldn't move much as it was extremely exhausting and painful to do much. I've always been a clean freak, so the thought of not showering for days made me more uncomfortable than the bed rotting. So although I was embarrassed, I had to ask my dad for help. I'm 19 and this is something I wouldn't dream of asking my parents, especially my dad. But I didn't have a choice. I was ready for him to say no, he didn't. So he made the bath for me, and I'll save the unnecessary details. He ended up giving me a thorough bath and IDK if it was because of the tiredness I felt. But it wasn't that bad back then. He also helped to dress me up. He told me that I shouldn't feel embarrassed to ask him for help. Then he offered to give me a bath until I felt better. So this happens for a week even when my mom returns. I don't see the point of asking my mom and getting both of my parents going all that. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't look bothered. And after the first few times, I didn't feel weird about it. He's also really good with his hands and would help massage my stiff muscles afterwards. When I got better and went back to classes, my friend asked me about my recovery. When I told her about the bathing situation, she looked very weirded out. I know it's not typical, but is it that weird for your parent to help you that way? Stories number 31. I 48M. Realized I probably need to leave my marriage with my 48F wife because I have quite a strong crush on a woman 45F who I've known for a few years. Am I an idiot? A massive jerk? Monkey branching? I've been in a roommate-style marriage for a decade or so. Married for over 20 years. Sex once a year or so. No affection. I tried to initiate both sex and normal intimacy for most of these years. But about a year ago, I was just done. A 10-20% rate at reciprocal non-sexual. Primarily affection means 90-80% of the time I feel rejected, and my self-esteem is in the fucking gutter. I don't try anymore, and to be honest, I'm beyond wanting to have sex with her anymore. Why haven't I left? 2 kids, our finances and retirement funds are all tied up in the house we live in, and we were both born and raised in the US and now live in a foreign country. An aging relative lives in a small apartment attached to the house. I'm frankly not sure how well my wife would manage without me, financially and/or emotionally speaking. I'm not particularly happy in my job, but I have these 4 people whose lives would likely be worse if I changed to a more fulfilling but lower-paying job or left my wife. About 5 years ago, I worked closely and on a daily basis with a married woman who I had a lot in common with and found very attractive. But that was that. It was basically just the 2 of us in a small room all day for a few months. As is often the case in this situation, you end up taking quite a bit about your personal life and you get to know each other pretty well. I enjoyed the time I spent working with her, and that was that. There was no flirting. Nothing that I wouldn't have done had she been a guy or a 70-year-old woman that I connected with. We still occasionally run into each other for work, and we don't work at the same company anymore, but our professional lives are pretty intertwined. We'd meet up every 6 months or so for lunch or a drink. We talked about our respective relationships and our issues. A year or so ago, she separated from her husband. Recently, we met up after work, talked a bit about some projects we were working on. In the course of the conversation, she told me that she had such a crush on me when we were working on together. And how could I not have noticed, etc. I had no idea. I told her that I felt the same at the time. Since then, I was basically broken. I couldn't stop thinking about her. About what could have been. We both had to travel a bit for work and vacation after this, and we weren't writing back forth or anything during that time. I was aware that I was likely blowing this all out of proportion in my head, and was frankly hoping that I was, because it would be easier than the alternative. Last week we met for coffee, and I basically told her how I felt and how conflicted I was. She basically said she felt the same and that she felt bad for sparking this. I assured her that whatever I decided, I didn't want her to feel responsible for it. If I left my marriage and she decided that she wanted nothing to do with me, that's fine. I tried to act as normal as possible during this time. My wife and I had our usual arguments. But one relatively minuscule thing was the final straw. She wrote a grocery shopping list, as she often does, and I added about 10 things to the bottom of it I cook more than half the time. For both the family and my work lunches. She cut the grocery list in half, and said she'd only get the stuff she wrote down because the other stuff is me stuff. I took both grocery lists and bought everything. It struck me that our marriage is really, really bad. My wonderful 16-year-old told me she basically wishes we'd split up. I'm aware of the fact that I could have headed this off much earlier. Talking about my relationship issues with her left me open to this. And the worst thing I did was not communicate more clearly and set my boundaries earlier before my marriage deteriorated to the point that it has. I also know that I'm high on the feeling of someone actually liking me, and that my judgment is clouded, and that red flags will likely be ignored. And before long this woman may very well be taking shits with the door open or express a desire to collect 27 cats, or tell me about her side MLM business. Clearly my only option is telling my wife, I have zero desire for a physical affair. The problem is, I don't want to move past this and continue with the marriage. I have absolutely zero idea how she'll react.